Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us once again as we are here. We are live in beautiful British Columbia. And the man, look at that beard beside me. How gorgeous is that hair and beard combination of Steve Stockton? We're going to bring him in here momentarily as we're going to be talking missing people and cryptids all night long. We are in for one hell of a fun show tonight. And I know that I say that every night, but this is one topic that I love. I love this topic. And Steve's one of the best out there when it comes to telling these incredible stories. And let's say hello to a race fan in the gold medal position tonight. We got the gorgeous Jenny Metz in silver. Taking home the bronze is Jay Foxhunter. And let's make the rundown now. Solar Warden, how you doing? Hey, Sonny Sloan, good to have you back. SJ and gorgeous Steph Dickey are here. Jack Clark has arrived, everyone. Via limousine, Jack Clark has arrived. And Grand Paul Holland, and good morning to you, Jim Morris. Ufologist, good to see you. By the way, ufologists will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. The gorgeous and talented Jennifer Lane has returned as we continue on down. Lazarus, good to see you. I hope you have a drink for me tonight, my friend. I would appreciate that. As there she is, everyone. The gorgeous and talented Cosmic Fleur. She is back, and she is in charge tonight. She's got her strut going on as we continue on. Gregory Smith and the Ronald Penton, everyone. The Ronald Penton has arrived. Nikki, how are you, my gorgeous friend? Good to see you. And Todd Purdon, nice to have you back. Oracles and Beyond, welcome to our chat room for the first time. Thank you for joining us. Michael Smith, how you doing, buddy? Thank you for kicking off the super chat again tonight. We really do appreciate that, my friend. And, oh, yeah, there in KPNL land is Steve Stockton. Steve Stockton, everybody. You can give him a wave. He'll give you a hat tip, if you don't mind. Or a tip of the hat, I should say. There it is. Look at that. Look at that. 13 past midnight. That's Steve Stockton as well, I believe. Another hat tip would be perfect for that one, Steve. We'd appreciate that. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That is beautiful. Beautiful. And Carol XO, how are you? Welcome to our channel. We appreciate you tuning us on in. And scrolling on down, there's Michael. So Ed Clater's here, everyone. Ed Clater has arrived. We appreciate Ed each and every night. Murad's Haunted Journeys, welcome to our channel for the first time. Thank you for joining us. Lunar Eclipse Paranormal, thank you for coming on in. I believe this may be your first time as well. Welcome to the show. Adventures with Beth. We appreciate your adventures around here, Beth. Come on an adventure with us on Spaced Out Radio. Data Derivations, how are you? Welcome back. And let's see, where are we here? Arlene Freeberg has arrived, everyone. The Arlene Freeberg. Thank you for joining us on our channel tonight. We really do appreciate it. And scrolling on down. Mama Susan, nice to have you back. The gorgeous and talented Jessica Lee has returned. The lovely and special Jessica McCreary has arrived. We all toast her each and every night. Rocket 9, good to have you back. And scrolling on down. Sasquatch, good to see you, buddy. Fapster, my man, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. Project Blue Book, nice to have you here. Double Tim, nice to see you. And where are we here? Scrolling on. Chad Smith is here. He says he's Dave Scott. I'm Dave Scott, but I am also Chad Smith. I am Chad Smith. Pol Pot, glad to have you back. Been a while. Where you been hiding? Richard Elmore, good to see you. Steve, I'm starting the Spreaker feed. And that started. Gemma Jade, welcome to our channel. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate that. Hugh Junnett. I know what that means, but I'm not pronouncing it the right way. How you doing, Hugh? Good to have you here. Welcome to the show. And scrolling on down. Major Lee, thank you for joining us, buddy. Good to see you. And the gorgeous Jennifer P. has returned. Give us a wave, Jennifer, if you don't mind. Jello Putin, how are you, man? Nice to have you here. Millennium, good to see you. Hi, JR. And my buddy Andrew there. Nice to have you all here. Open-Minded Clarity, nice to see you. The gorgeous Jenny, Andy L., welcome. Snakes, nice to have you back. Adam Lakatos, what's happening, man? Good to see you. And where are we? Smoking Joe, what's happening? And Kurt Seltzer with a splash of lime. William Townsend, your beard is looking perfect. Stew Pot, nice to have you here. Vincent Proto, thank you for coming on in and all the promos. Brad Forsey, nice to see you, my friend. Ian Herndon, Rob Maida, how are you? And we're going to get going here in 10 seconds. Manitoba Becky, looking lovely tonight. I'm an Ed, Paranormal, welcome to the show. Here we go. Steve Stockton's coming on up. Let's do this thing. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old baby the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by CHIVE Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting CHIVE Charities today. You can find them on our website. Oh, we got an entertaining show for you tonight. Vendor and note storesman and paranormal researcher Steve Stockton has had a lifelong fascination with the strange and anomalous tales from the forests around North America, as well as his own personal encounters with the unexplained. We'll find out about those tonight. There are things in the woods that we do not know yet and lack explanations for, as Steve states. He's followed the case of 6-year-old Dennis Martin, who vanished mysteriously from the Great Smoky Mountains National Park back in 1969. He's a podcaster. He's part of KPNL, where we broadcast. And let's face it, people, I know you can't see this in Radio Land, but Steve has one incredible beard and hair combinations, and I appreciate that. Steve Stockton, it's been a while since we had you on, but man, I love what you do. I love your research. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on, Dave. The hair and the beard's not quite up to par today. It's so hot here. Second day in a row of triple digits here in the Pacific Northwest. Took a shower and then went outside to kind of let things dry and just got wet again.
I know that feeling.
So that's why I've got my go to hell hat on here.
I know that feeling. You know, Steve, let's learn a little bit about you, because you're a guy who has had some experiences. You're a guy who has chosen really to push yourself into learning more about these subjects that really are unexplainable. Why did you decide that this was a path you needed to take?
Well, I don't know as much that I decided the path or the path decided for me. I think it's more the latter sometimes. Had my first ghost encounter when I was between 5 and 6 years old, saw a full body apparition. And then about that same time, in that June on Father's Day, 1969, Dennis Martin went missing. And I was about the same age as Dennis. I think he was a few months older than me. And that just sort of captivated me. That was the first time really got my 5, almost 6-year-old mind around the fact that sometimes kids can go missing and they're never heard from again. So, yeah, I've followed that case since its inception. And we lived only about an hour or so from the Smokies. And in my little child mind, I thought, well, you know, he could have wandered down this far. I even went out on the country road down where we lived on my Schwinn Stingray and looked for him in the bushes.
Why did that case hit home for you?
Again, it was close to home. It was a place that I'd been. On my mom's side, her people are from Cades Cove, and he had been to Cades Cove and had hiked up to Spence Field. That's the area where he disappeared from. And I'd been all over there, even at a young age. We would always go to Cades Cove for family reunion, and it just captivated me. There's the three main things that I remember from childhood are the Dennis Martin case, the Vietnam War, and the Manson family. So I was marked from the get-go, I think. That was what was on the news every night.
Growing up, in saying that, growing up in the Lower Mainland of British Columbia in the late '70s, early '80s, there was a serial killer who ended up being caught, and he was a child killer named Clifford Olson.
Hmm.
And I remember to this day this young boy named Simon. I don't know his last name, but I remember seeing his face on the news at night that he had gone missing. They eventually found his body, and it's amazing how those little names, you don't know the person, but as a kid, it just affects your psyche about it.
Hmm. Yeah, and I clipped things out of the newspaper. Somewhere I've still got two scrapbooks full of clippings about Dennis Martin. It was one of those things. Back then, Knoxville, Tennessee had two daily papers. Had the Knoxville Journal, which was the morning paper, Knoxville News Sentinel, which was the evening paper. We got both, and I would scour them every day for word, that he had been found, and it never came. And that's just later on in life, I would meet his father, and just you talk about a totally broken man. And he passed away a few years ago on Halloween, which is also my birthday. I thought about that, 50 years with no closure there. That's just, the worst thing in the world I think that can ever happen to a parent is to bury your child, but to not even have a body to bury or know what ever happened to him. And every year in Knoxville, around the anniversary of Dennis' disappearance, they would have something special on the news. And they interviewed his father one time, and he said, I've always thought that someday there'd be a knock at my door. I'd go to the door, and there'd be a handsome man standing there, and he'd say, "Can I help you?" And the man would say, "Dad, it's me, Dennis. I've come home." And that just talk about a heartstring tugging moment to hear him say that. Just it's impossible to even imagine what you would do in a situation like
There's
that.
a case like that here in British Columbia where a young boy at 4 or 5 years old named Michael Dunahee, I think it's been about 25, 26 years. His parents took him to the park. They were at a ballpark for a weekend slow pitch tournament or something like that. And the boy went to play in the playground and was never seen again. And there's been a couple times where, on those age, where they take the age of a child, picture of a child, and then they age it to what the child would look like today. There's
Mhm.
been a couple of cases where they thought they had found the boy, and unfortunately, DNA proved differently. But this boy vanished. Like there is still no clues. It's still an open case, and
Yeah.
we're going. So I mean, it's just amazing. There's and you know what, Steve? There's a lot of bad out there. And it's hard to talk about that because we want to deflect negativity. We want to deflect everything that goes along with that. But then there are the strange cases of people just going missing. The most famous, of course, being David Paulides and his Missing 411 and Can-Am Missing Project. But there are others like yourself who are looking into a lot of these strange, weird cases that just do not make sense. What
Mhm.
attracts you to this? Why do you want to look into these cases?
I think it's the fact that it doesn't make sense because some of the disappearances are just so bizarre. And I appreciate David's research and how he's kind of brought it into the forefront. And a lot of people are more aware of it now. But some of those cases go back, 1800s, 1700s. There's a lot of historical cases where people literally just vanished. Sometimes it would be as simple as maybe somebody walking ahead of a group on a trail just around the corner, and then they're never seen again. Or say they forgot something in the car, need to go back, run down the trail, never see them again. So, what is it? What could be out there that's taking people? There's so many different theories and so many different things. None of them really make any sense as far as scientific reasons or rational reasons, but there's something to it. I mean, people don't just go missing, yet they do. And we're talking no trace where the dogs can't get a scent. They don't find anything. There's no evidence of a struggle. Like in the case of a predatory animal attack, there's no blood, no torn clothing. Even people that may have done themselves in. I don't see how that many people could find a way to off themselves in the woods in a national park in such a place that their body could never be found.
What do you think is causing a lot of these? What is your speculation? I have my own. I know many in our audience have their own too, but for you, what is your speculation of what is going on?
Well, I don't think it's any just one thing in particular. I think it's several things. All the theories can make sense depending on how you fit the pieces in there. Some people think it's serial killers. Well, or a serial killer. If it is, it's the most prolific and most successful serial killer ever in the fact that they haven't left any kind of forensic evidence. Other people think it's alien abductions. I can kind of see that. Some people claim it's Bigfoot or Dogman or some similar cryptid creature. I could see that happening. One of the other popular theories is portals. People simply step through a portal and then they're somewhere else. They're in the other. And there have been people that have been lost and came back, and that's almost what they described. They were just walking along, and suddenly nothing looked familiar. Everything looked different. It was kind of like where they were, but it wasn't where they were just a minute ago. And in some cases, they could even hear the search and rescue people, or maybe even see them off in the distance. They call to them, they wave to them. It's like they can't see them either. So it's almost like an alternate reality or some sort of time slip or glitch in the matrix. And then there's the Fae theory, which is one that we talk about over on my main channel, Missing Persons and Mysteries. We're up to, I'm recording part 4 of that. If you look back into olden times, like particularly in the Celtic countries, there was a belief in the Fae folk that bordered on religion. And the Fae are some nasty people. I mean, it's not this Disney-fied Tinkerbell cobblers, elves type things. These are some devious little creatures, and then a lot of other creatures fall under that framework of the Fae. Elementals, even aliens and Bigfoot and things like that can sort of fit in there if you look at all the different types of Fae creatures that supposedly exist in historical data. It all kind of fits in that. And that was something that fairies were known to do, to lead people off into the woods, lead them astray either with fairy lanterns or do something to them to mesmerize them, put them in a spell, and then they were never seen again. Or it could be simple misadventure. You know, it's a big, dangerous place out there. If you go out ill-equipped and ill-prepared and don't know that much about the wilderness, it's easy to get hurt or killed. So I think it's a mixture of everything.
When people go missing, we always see these teams that go out trying to find them. Sometimes there are a few, sometimes in the case of a child or the elderly especially, there's always hundreds that go out, especially children. And yet you mentioned a lot of times, Steve, there is no trace. There is no clothing, there's no footprints, there is no evidence whatsoever. Dogs cannot pick up a scent on where the child has been. There's very few eyewitnesses to the case. You know, when you got a case that's absolutely starting from nowhere, how do you build that case? How do you go about investigating it?
Yeah, well, it's one of those things Charles Fort said, one measures a circle beginning anywhere. And it's kind of like this with these cases. You can take any side of it, any facet, any aspect, and just start there and then go one direction or the other and see where it leads you. Some of them there's a lot of commonalities. People wearing red tend to go missing. You would think that'd be just the opposite. You think somebody in red would be easy to spot, but that goes back. I covered a case recently from the 1800s in Burlington Triangle, Burlington, Vermont area, where a college girl wearing a bright red coat just went around the corner and they never saw her again. Berry fields tend to have a lot to do with it. A lot of people either go missing in or around berry patches or while actually picking berries. And there's other things about berries. I've got some stories in some of my other books about people that have had paranormal or supernatural things happen while they were picking berries. So it's not
Oh,
just a missing person thing.
get into the berry thing because I've never heard that before.
Yeah, well, if you believe the Fae theory, those berries belong to the Fae, and not only do they use them for food, but within those bushes and particularly the berries that have briars, that's where they go to mate. So you're not only taking their food, you're keeping them from getting their groove on if you're in the berry patch there. But there's something about that. One of the cases in my book, 2 young girls are picking berries in Middle Tennessee, Fentress County, back in the 1930s, and they happened to look down the hillside to a disused railroad track. One of them saw it first, and there was an old pine coffin floating along the railroad bed. It wasn't rolling on anything; it was floating above the bed, just passed them by. Needless to say, they dropped their lard buckets that they were picking berries in and ran the other way. But there's a lot of encounters like that where they've seen a UFO, they've seen a Bigfoot, they've seen a ghost, they've had some sort of paranormal or supernatural experience while either in a berry patch, near a berry patch, or in the act of picking berries. So again, no explanation for it, but there's enough documented cases that it's not just a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence anyway. I believe in synchronicities. But there's something to the berry patches. Boulder fields is another one.
Yeah.
A lot of
Now,
times people are found in a boulder field deceased. And in some cases, they look like they've been dropped from a great height and landed in the boulders, even though there's no great height for them to have fallen from. Well, one of the Native American tribes, I think it's the Algonquins, they believe in a creature that looks like a rock that could open up and swallow you, crush you, and then spit you back out. So if a boulder were capable of doing that, when it spits you back out and with the other boulders, you might look like you'd fallen from a great height. So and then that's another thing. A lot of these legends and things, it goes back to Native American times. They have a story for everything. They have stories about the Fae. They have stories about Bigfoot. Those are people that they consider both those different races of people that they have been at war with and been at peace with, and now they just kind of ignore one another.
what is it with boulder fields? And I will tell you, the last time that you were on this show about a year and a half ago, where we kind of got into this, you had mentioned boulder fields, and we never really got into a lot of detail about it, so to speak. And
Mhm.
I got to tell you, man, my area, when you go out in the forests and you're driving those gravel roads looking for Sasquatch prints or wolf prints or anything like that, I could not believe how many boulder fields there are out
Mhm.
there. And each time I think, oh my God, like, is today the day? And I've told this story. I'm not sure if you've heard me telling this story. You probably have, but in a gravel pit, that's where my good friend Mike actually went hunting for grouse and for rabbits a couple, about a year ago. And while he was standing in this gravel pit, which kind of, you have the gravel pit that kind of rounds out and then it kind of bleeds into the forest area.
Mhm.
And that's where he started hearing my voice emanating from the forest area. And he as he puts it, the voice wasn't coming from one simple direction. It was coming from all around him. And it was, help me, Mike, help me. And I'm 25 minutes away, 20 minutes away at work during my
Mhm.
daytime job. I'm nowhere near the forest. And yet he said it was my voice, clear as day, and it freaked the daylights out of him.
Yeah. I've heard similar stories where somebody hears either a friend or a family member calling to them from a cave or from somewhere deep in the woods where they can't actually see who it is or where it's coming from, but it sounds like, and they'll even call their name sometimes. Now that's getting really creepy if whatever it is out there. And again, you get into the Native American legends of shapeshifters and entities like Spearfinger. They can take on the shape and the appearance, and the sound of a loved one or anything they want to. That's the the Native Americans in the Appalachian regions. Watching the old cowboy movies, they'll raise their hand up when they greet one another. How like in the cowboy movies, but that was actually a thing because some of those shapeshifters, like Spearfinger in particular, her heart was in her hand. And if somebody had been away from the teepee too long or been away from the village and came back, and you wanted to make sure it was really them and not just something imitating them, you asked to see the palm of their hand. So if whatever it was refused to show you their palm and ran away or whatever, then you know that was not your grandma or sister, brother, or whoever at all. So that's fascinating how some of those things that just developed into a
Yeah.
common thing have a basis in the supernatural or to prove that something was natural.
Well, I had asked one of our elders from the First Nation community around here, kind of what was up, because I had heard some creepy pasta stories about both the Wendigo and Skinwalkers,
Mhm.
imitating people and their voices in the forest to try and lure victims in. And I asked him about whether or not we have them in this area. He took some deep thought and he goes, "No, we don't have them. I've never heard about them being in our community." He goes, "But the little people
Mhm.
who walk around the forest protecting the forest, they will do so. They will be the ones who try and lure in there, and sometimes they're not so nice." Have you heard about this?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, we've covered the missing in the faith theory. We're up to part 4. And Gemma Jade, that was just in the chat, she's our head writer over there. She's written a book about the Fae and missing persons. And get her on sometime. She's an expert on it. But she's found a lot of evidence there that the mimicry and things that they do. That again, the fairies are known for that, and people will kind of snicker at you if you talk about fairies and the fae and things. But it's the same people that believe in Bigfoot and UFOs. I don't think it's that much of a stretch.
No, it's not. But here's the mystery, though, Steve. In your opinion, how do these creatures way out in the forest know what your mother sounds like, or your sister, or your brother, or your best friend? How do they know that?
Yeah, well, there's different theories on that too. That they're just they're experts at mimicry. That they have some sort of way to read your mind or interpret the feelings. In the Bible, it speaks about familiar spirits, and that's what it's talking about. It's familiar with you, familiar with your family, particularly people that might be under a generational curse or something like that. There are spirits that will follow, or entities that will follow a whole family sometimes, a generational curse. Generation after generation after generation, it's just passed along as almost like a part of the heredity.
No kidding. No kidding. But so what are you saying then, if I get this correctly, is we got about 2.5 minutes to go before we go into break at the bottom of the hour. Are you saying then that these creatures, whatever they are, can telepathically hear voices in your head on what
I
they
think
sound
they would
like?
have to be able to mimic, because if they can, do the voice of somebody that's familiar to you and that person isn't around, then they've got to pull it from somewhere. They're either just pulling it out of the ether, or they have the ability to know what's going on in your head. Some sort of telepathy would be involved there.
Okay, telepathy I can believe. Okay, because there's a lot of telepathy talk within the Sasquatch community too.
Hmm.
And I get that and I can understand that. However, where I'm having troubles with is how the hell did that whatever it was in the forest that was calling my friend know my voice?
Yeah. See, that's the weird, the inexplicable part of it. But yeah, I've heard that in the Bigfoot cases too. People that have supposedly talked with Bigfoot telepathically, like they've seen the creature and they hear it speaking to them, not in an audible voice, but in an inner voice, and they know that that's what it is. Heard the same thing about aliens or UFO knots or whatever you want to call them, grays, whatever they are, that they also can put thoughts in your head and speak to you that way. So I'm assuming if they have the ability and the knowledge to do that sort of thing, then it would be like they could open your mind and look through it like a file cabinet and say, "Oh, this is Grandma's voice. I'll use this one." That's mind-boggling to even think about, but yet it happens, and there's no
It
explanation for it.
is.
Like your friend there, he heard your voice. He knew it was your voice, but yet it wasn't you because you said you were 25 miles away. So again, that can't happen, but it does.
In your estimation, do you think then that if these things have the ability to telepathically read our minds and hear our minds, do you think that they can also project our worst fears?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a lot of times, especially with UFO abductions and things, you have screen memories where people think they saw one thing, but then under hypnosis or regression or whatever, it was actually something else entirely. And it was either something that they were afraid of or something that they liked and enjoyed. Like if you listen to some of Whitley Strieber's stuff, he saw owls, which didn't necessarily frighten him. He just thought they were strange, but it wasn't owls at all. It was some sort of alien humanoid type thing that put that screen memory in there.
No
So
kidding.
So
No
yeah, I think
kidding.
if they wanted to scare you, they if they know what your grandma looked and sounded like, then they know your deepest, darkest fears too, and they could put something in the woods, like say a dog man or something, to chase you and frighten you away.
Steve, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to take a break here at
Sure.
the bottom of the hour. Steve Stockton from KPNL talking missing people, talking cryptids. We're in for one heck of a show tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Thank you for tuning us in. We'll be back with more creepy stories of missing people and the cryptids that surround them on Spaced Out Radio next. Strong start, buddy. Strong start.
Yeah, thanks. We're all over the road, but that's the way I like it sometimes.
Me too. It's just a natural conversation. I am going to quickly race through a bunch because my fingers are getting sore from typing hello. Hi, D.A. Roberts. How you doing, my friend? Good to see you. And PBR, thanks for joining us. And uh, Yes, I am listening, PBR. I've been able to multitask for years. So if you haven't noticed by now, then what have you been watching? And let's see here. Nicholas Shaughnessy, thanks for coming on in. And Desert Rat, good to see you. It's been a while. Casual conversation with Gloria, gorgeous Gloria. Hey, Gloria, just so you know, we added you to our SOR Friends show list on YouTube. You can go check that out. I got to add your channels yet, Steve.
Yeah, Missing Persons and Mysteries and 13 Past Midnight. Yeah, I want to say hi to all my people that are here from my
a ton of them.
Stocktonites, Oracles and Beyond, Cassie and Carol XO, and a bunch of people that they've sent over. So I've got a good crew here.
You do. You got one of the best teams out there, man. And I could see why you're having so much success. You know, Animal Fire, welcome to the chat room. Scrolling. I'm just trying to catch up here.
Melissa Wiggins, that's our latest writer that we brought on over on Missing Persons and Mysteries. We've got 6 now.
That is awesome. Louis Zenadog, welcome to our channel. The gorgeous Angela Wilbert, thank you for joining us. I swear I'm going so fast here trying to catch up. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. And Sashia Rogers, welcome to the channel. Gabe Roca, good to see you. The lovely Laura Tarnowski, nice to have you back. Rooted in Gorgeous Sacredness, good to see you. Holy cow, it just never ends. I'm just going to have to go like this and start from the bottom. That's what I'm going to have to do. Jeanette, is it Jeanette? Yeah, Jeanette Sanchez, welcome to our channel.
That's my little brown elf friend from San Diego.
Yeah, perfect. Andrew, thank you so much for that super chat, man. Really appreciate it. Wayne Pierce, good to see you. DVS Graf, thank you for coming on in. Lovely Lauren, nice to have you back. Mennonite Abe, the gorgeous and talented Simply Coco, please let us know what you're drinking tonight. We'd appreciate that. Sensational Sherry, thank you for coming on in. I know I'm missing people. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. No, I think I'm actually finally caught up. If I missed your name, say hi, Dave, and I will get to it. Vinster, what's happening? Thank you for that super chat, man. I know we have a lot of new listeners here, maybe listening to us for the first time because you're following Steve. I want to just quickly explain to you guys that we are a live radio show. We are not a podcast. So that's the reason why we take commercial breaks, because on our radio side of things, we are on a commercial break right now. So we have to time everything out with our radio stations that are with us. So I do apologize if you're wondering what the hell is going on and why all of a sudden did the show kind of stop and you guys are just bantering. But that's the reason why. So please don't take it personally. We're not trying to, offend anybody, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. You guys get the behind the scenes look that the radio side doesn't get. So also, if you're posting questions, we will take your questions at the top after we come back from the top of the hour break. So we got about 1 minute here. Just scrolling, making sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, good.
Hey, Vinny Barbarino, thanks for that, buddy.
Yeah, Vinny's awesome. Opa to you, Greco. How you doing? Good to see you. And David Les Paulson, nice to have you here. Ruben Castro, welcome to our channel.
Dave, is the top of the hour. Is that the longer break?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oumuamua?
I need to step away for that one. I've been hydrating all day, so
no problem. Avi May, welcome back. And gorgeous Pam McC, or Pam C this time. And we got about 30 seconds here. And Jeanette Sanchez said hello to you. And Arlene Freeberg said hello to you.
KDA, she's one of your fellow Canadians there.
Yes, she is. She's amazing. Raven is Ryan. How are you? The gorgeous Magic Maiden, welcome back. We're going to get going here in a few seconds. Sit back, relax. We're going to have some fun right now. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to say hello to everyone listening in around our affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with Steve Stockton tonight, as he is a researcher, an author, an all-around good guy with a fantastic beard and hair combination, and we love him around here. One of the most popular YouTube channels when it comes to missing people and the phenomena that it is. Steve, welcome back.
No, thanks, Dave. Glad to be here. Love being on your show.
Steve, in the Pacific Northwest, where you are and where I am located, I'm more north, you're more south. There are a lot of mountain ranges, man, and people are using them on a daily basis for hiking, for fishing, for hunting, for outdoor activities, camping, you name it, ATV riding, and just getting out into nature and enjoying it. Geocaching, there's another one. And for some reason, some of these people just seem to vanish and disappear. In the Pacific Northwest where you are, is there a case that really sticks out for you?
Not just a case, but cases. There are certain areas where, like Politis talks about, there seems to be clusters. One of those is down near Crater Lake in southern Oregon. I forget how many young men, like in their 20s, have gone missing there. Athletic types, outdoorsy types, people that shouldn't have any problem in the woods, yet they disappeared without a trace. There's an island out in the middle of Crater Lake called Wizard Island, and even though the park rangers there claim that sometimes at night they've seen what appears to be humans dancing around fires out there, yet they go over in the motorboat and there's no sign of anyone or the fires. So there's talk of some sort of weird ritual activity, whether it's humans or whether it's some sort of supernatural goings on, whatever. I don't know what that could be. Mount St. Helens, there's always been missing people and strange activity up there all the way back to like some of the Bigfoot cases, famous Ape Canyon attack back in, I think it was 1921, 1924, when 5 miners were trapped in a cabin up there and fell under siege by a group of big feet that started throwing stones down on their cabin. Also, Mount Rainier, a lot of strange disappearances there. And again, it's just those where like the guy was just here and then he's gone and there's absolutely no trace. Occasionally, some of these cases, they will find something that makes no sense, like the person's boots or part of their clothing or one sock or pants taken off, turned inside out and hung over a tree branch or folded neatly and put on a stump. Who would do that? And yeah, there's a lot of cases out here. In fact, that's the center of my third book. The first one has been out for a while. It's National Park Mysteries and Disappearances. This one's about the Great Smoky Mountains in particular. That was near and dear to my heart. I knew a lot of those cases. I knew a lot about them personally. Volume 2, California, I cover Joshua Tree, Mount Shasta, and Yosemite, which is the second most visited national park, with the Great Smokies being the first. And then Volume 3, which is due out in December, it actually, and we didn't talk about this beforehand, so that's good insight on your part, but it's about the Pacific Northwest. It covers Oregon, Washington State, and Idaho. So I'm doing research on those states right now and finding just all kinds of crazy things. And in fact, at the end of this month, Ann from KPNL and I, we're going to go up onto Mount St. Helens and get some video footage that I'm going to use for videos on missing persons and mysteries while I'm up there doing research for the book. So kind of kill a few birds with one stone there. But I'm looking forward to that. And I've always been the type, I've said that if I go missing, I'll set the woods on fire. I'll find the tallest tree I can find and blaze it up. Or at least get a bunch of green branches and stuff and make the biggest smoke fire that I can find. But you wonder about that because they find people deceased that have all kinds of equipment with them, firearms sometimes, but yet, they didn't use their firearm. They didn't use their bear spray. They didn't try to light a fire. They still have food and water with them. What happened to them? And the really strange ones are the people that they find in areas that have already been searched. That happens very commonly, more so than to just be coincidence, where maybe within an area that's been searched close to the person where the person disappeared, maybe it's been searched several times over several days, and then they'll inexplicably find the person there deceased right on the edge of the trail where nobody could have missed them. The body looks like they've been dead for, say, just a couple of days, but they've been missing for 2 or 3 weeks or more. So where were they between the time they went missing and when the body was found? How did the body get there? It doesn't appear that they died there, but like they were placed there. It's almost like sometimes whatever's out there that takes people, it likes to taunt. It likes to say, well, here they are. You just didn't find them, or you couldn't find them, and now you can. So I don't know. And that would also kind of work into the different dimension theory there, where somebody, slips through into another dimension, ends up passing away because no telling what's over there. And then when they're deceased, then they come back into this realm and poof, there they are. So I don't, man, there's so many strange things about it. Like I gave the Charles Fort reference there. You can really start looking into this from anywhere, from any angle, and just find all these strange things that appear time and time again, just in different ways. And I've thought a lot about the boots, where they find people missing their boots. There was one guy that had gotten lost. I think he was in Colorado. They found his body. He was just a few yards from a farmhouse. They had found his boots 2 miles away, and this was in like several feet of snow and below freezing temperatures. Now, they talk about paradoxical undressing, where when you're going into hypothermia, you feel hot because your body's actually throwing off heat and you're freezing to death. But yeah, for a guy to take his boots off and walk 2 miles through the ice and snow makes absolutely no sense. But I've thought about that too. Out here in Portland, we have what's called the Shanghai tunnels
Yes.
under the old part of town. And that was back in the day when it was a rough and rowdy place. Somebody would go into a bar or a brothel, and they slip them a Mickey. Then they go down a trapdoor in the back of the place. When they come to, they're underneath in a tunnel, if they're not already on a ship headed for the Far East, and that's where the Shanghai part comes from. But I've gone down and toured those tunnels, and it's sandy down there because it's close to the river. But the other thing that's down there, there's broken glass that's been there since the tunnels were created. So when they dropped you down those tunnels while you were still passed out, they would remove your shoes. So you come to, you're in a dark tunnel, you don't know where you are, how to get out. There's broken glass on the ground, and you're barefoot. So if you think about that, if you wanted to chase somebody in the woods and maybe give them just a sporting chance, take their shoes and let them run barefoot. They're not going to get far, but it wouldn't be like, say, the proverbial shooting fish in a barrel or something. So it's whatever it is, if it is a serial killer, if it is some sort of cosmic prankster, does it remove their boots so to let them run just to sport or to laugh at them before it takes them? That's, I've given that theory a lot of consideration.
See, I could see that, Steve, with adults because these psychopaths who are out there, and let's make no bones about it, there are psychopaths out there doing some very strange, heinous things to people,
Mhm.
and twisted things that we could never really imagine. But when it comes to children, all right. It makes no sense to have a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old all of a sudden have their Velcro shoes taken off and placed gently on a rock,
Mhm.
or to have their shirt removed and folded on a rock. I mean, this is what doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. And there have been cases like that where very small children, just barely able to walk, have disappeared barefoot, or they did find their shoes if they had them on to begin with. And they might be several miles away, more miles than a child that age could cover, even with shoes on, or in a much higher place. Typically, a child or anybody for that matter, when you get lost, you tend to go downhill because it's easier to walk down. But there have been cases where missing children, like 2, 3 years old, that they find them up high on a bluff. Or one little kid, I don't remember if it was a boy or girl, they found him on another ridge several miles away where he had to climb up an elevation, go back down into a valley, and then go up another little cliffside there. And they found him up on top of that. Now, how did he get there? There's no way physically that he could have gotten there. I mean, somebody had to take him and put him up there, or something took him and put him up there. He levitated or he apported, but there's no way and his feet weren't even damaged. So,
Cases that really interest me are cases where there's two really. Number one, when more than one thing or one person goes missing, where you have a human and a horse, or a
mhm,
human and a dog. A dog you can see running away being spooked, okay? But a horse is something that is way too large, man. Way too large to just vanish.
right.
1,200-pound animals outside of Bigfoot and Dogman do not just vanish.
Mhm,
There's always a trail. Well, like even, okay, in my area, we have 1,500-pound moose. They may vanish in the forest, but they still leave a trail, if you know what I'm saying.
mhm.
And yet we're seeing these animals or bikes or something inanimate even going missing with the person.
Yeah, it's common for animals to go missing with people, dogs in particular. There was one lady I read about that I think she had two horses with her. Excuse me, and they found one of them dead, one of them near death. And I think she was still alive, but she had no memory of what had happened.
That is brutal. Have you ever been lost in the forest?
Excuse me, got a tickle in my throat. No, I have, but just for a short amount of time.
Okay, let me give you an example of something that happened to me, and it was funny because I was talking to my brother-in-law about it today, and he's an outdoorsman. And where I have one of my Bigfoot sightings, Steve, is out. It's probably about 200, 150 feet, 200, feet off the logging road, and we'd gone in there numerous times just to go look for, check for evidence, check for the site, see if everything is a-okay, if anything's been moved, so on and so forth.
Hmm.
And this one time I went in there, man, I walked. There's two areas that we check. We check an area where we have the gifting site, and then we check the area where we have we found a footprint a few years ago. And lo and behold, we're by where the footprint was. We start coming out of the forest, and dude, I got lost.
Mm-hmm.
I was 10 feet away from it, and I got lost. I didn't know which way the road was. I didn't know which way to enter. I started to head into a direction that I shouldn't have, and it just didn't make sense. I didn't know where the heck I was. And then thankfully, there was a few people with us. I didn't hit the panic button just yet, but for me personally, my anxiety started to absolutely take off because I had no clue.
Yeah.
So the point that I'm getting at with this experience that I had in knowing that I didn't know where I was, and then finally we heard a vehicle coming up the logging road where I was able to, okay, that's the direction that I got to go. I don't 200 feet in, I'm not bringing a compass.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I've taken the same trails each and every time, but for some reason, something in the brain just went twing,
Yeah.
and I didn't
I've
know
had that
where.
happen before. It's like you're just suddenly everything gets turned upside down in your head. And I had it happen like that where I was on the trail, following the trail, and suddenly I'm looking around and there's no trail anymore. And I'd been watching the blazes. It was a trail that I'd hiked on many, many times and knew I could probably hike it at night. And yet it just somehow I'd veered off and had no remembrance of doing it. So
Well,
that can happen. I don't know if that's something, weird or if that's just a human
well,
nature type thing.
that's exactly what I was going to ask, Steve. Do you think that maybe that's the start of some of these portals or these dimensional shifts happening?
Yeah, I think it could be. Other things that I've experienced like that, I've been in the woods and have it go, I mean, absolutely dead quiet. No birds, no leaves, no breeze, no water, absolutely nothing. It's like being deaf or being in a vacuum. And usually, when anywhere I've been where that's ever happened, I took that as a hint to get out of there. And I've heard other people talk about that. But it makes you wonder if you stayed there, if you stayed in that area or went even deeper toward what you were going toward, would it increase? Or I was hiking in the Smokies one time. I was up near Klingman's Dome, which is the highest point in the Smokies, and I don't always stay on the trail. I can read a compass, I can read a topo map. I had GPS and everything at the time, but and I can even guide myself by the stars if I can see the stars. There's places where you can't for the tree canopy, but I'd gone off trail to look at something, and a little farther over, I noticed some kind of weird little clearing, and I went over there, and in this clearing was like this magnificent oak tree, and usually there's not even any oaks that high up in the Smokies. Now I wasn't on the top of Klingman's Dome, but I was down
Right.
one side. But here was this oak that looked so real, that like hyper real, like a Disney Imagineer had made it or something. It was so real that it didn't look real. And I'm standing there and I'm looking at this oak tree, and it was huge. I mean, it'd take two or three people to hold hands to get all the way around it. And it got quiet like that in the forest. And part of me's thinking, that looks comfortable right there by that tree. I bet that'd be a good place to just sit down, relax, lean up against that mighty oak tree, maybe even take a nap. And then suddenly I caught myself like, where did that thought even come from? It's like 4:30 in the afternoon. It's going to be dark soon. I need to get down off here and get back toward the trailhead and to the parking lot, or I'm going to be up here in the dark. But I think that's one of those things that if I'd listened to that, whatever it was, trying to lull me into a security blanket there to sit down and take a nap below that tree, I don't think I'd have ever been heard from again. But whatever, something snapped me out of it, like my better judgment. But it makes you wonder, does that happen to people? Do people like think, yeah, that would be a good place to take a nap, and then boom, they're gone.
See, that's one of the mysteries. And if something does happen, where you go?
Yep.
You know, is it the little people? Is it the gnomes? Is it the forest dwellers? Is it whatever's hiding in inner earth coming up to get you? Is it aliens? Is it Bigfoot, Dogman,
Yes to
anything
all the
else?
above.
You know,
I can see an argument for any of those. It can be just depending on the situation. A lot of those fit. And again, everything pretty much fits within the framework of the Fae. Some of the elementals and
right,
creatures that are considered part of the Fae, they had men in what they call flying cars. There's UFOs. They had hairy giants. There's Bigfoot or Dogman. They had, other all kinds of little. There's pixies and imps, and there's like a hierarchy. There's different types of Fae that do different things, and that they're all pretty much evil. There are a few that will help you, but you have to be careful. It's kind of like, have you ever heard any of the old Jack stories where Jack would strike a bargain with the devil, and it always those are popular down south, or they were, but he always got gypped because the devil was a liar. Well, it's the same with the Fae. You don't make a deal with them, because whatever you enter into with, now this is
mhm,
according to the Celtic folklore, they're always going to win, or they don't play with you. They don't.
right.
Uh, so
Steve, we have a lot of people who listen to this show. And of course, we talk about the woo, we talk about the weird, the strange things that are happening. But I don't think a lot of people understand when they listen to you speak or they listen to other guests speak that the first thing that we are thinking of is not the woo. We are thinking about the logical explanations as to why things are happening. So when you take on a case or you're looking into a situation, a Bigfoot or a missing person or something along those lines, what is your first thoughts before you get into the woo?
Oh, to try to eliminate anything that could scientifically or rationally explain it. Because I've had that happen. I've seen things that, upon closer inspection, it wasn't anything supernatural, paranormal at all. It was just the person's perception of it, or, in a heightened state of fear. The mind can play tricks on you. In my first book, Strange Things in the Wood, I've got a story about a guy that had been, this is like back in the 20s or 30s, he'd been over to his girlfriend's house after church. They called it courting down south. And got dark, time for him to go home, and he had to be at work early at his dad's sawmill the next morning. And he thought, if I cut through the woods instead of taking the dirt road there, I should shave some time off and get home and get in bed early. So he goes through the woods, and as he's headed on his way home through these dark woods, he sees what looks like a coffin with a light in it. Well, now this is in the South. People are superstitious. Well, he saw that. He's sure it's some kind of warning or portent or some sort of terrible, terrible omen. So he runs. He runs through briars and branches and everything. By the time he gets home, scratched, he's cut, he's torn up his good Sunday clothes that he wore to church and wore over to his girlfriend's house. Gets in the house, he's panicking. He wakes his mom and dad up, and he's excitedly telling them what he's seen. And of course, his mom, she was the superstitious one. She starts wailing and said, "Oh, it's something's going to die. Somebody's going to die. This is terrible." And then finally, the dad says, "I've had enough of this nonsense." He said, "Come on, we're going to go see this light in the coffin." So he gets the guy, takes him, drags him, basically makes him go out in the woods back to where he saw this thing. And said, sure enough, he saw it off in the distance, but he wouldn't go over there. His dad walks over there, kind of bends over and looks at it, and then just lets out the biggest belly laugh. And he's like, "Son, get over here and look at this." It was a hollow log that had fallen, and there was a spider web inside there. And inside the spider web, there was a lightning bug that was flashing, firefly. So, but the guy in his mind, he saw a coffin with a light in it. And he said, if my poor old daddy hadn't dragged me back out there and showed me what that was, he said, I probably would have died that night just from sheer fright, just from thinking that something's going to happen to me. Because I think you can do that too. I think, they say that the life and death you have life and death in the power of your tongue, the power of life and death in your tongue. I believe you can do that. I believe you could hype yourself up to the point that you could cause yourself some sort of physical or psychological injury.
How many cases like that, say out of 10 cases, do you think are logical explanations? As we got about 2 minutes to go here.
Yeah, well, that depends. I mean, like in my book, no, there's only a few that are like that, but I'd say at least half can be some logical explanation. But just because there is a logical explanation of what it could be, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what it was. That's the other thing that you run into where, yeah, we could make it happen and make it look like that, but we didn't. Like those shows Fact or Faked, where they try to recreate something. They can do it. They can physically make it look like what the person saw, but what the person saw was real and not some sort of made up hocus pocus or puppet or something like that.
Very true. And so when you're drawing the difference between the logical and the illogical, what signs are you looking for? As we got about a minute.
Any sign of like a hoax or anything like that, anybody that would be looking for attention or something that just smells different off the bat. I mean, usually if you talk to people and interview people enough, and I've done this for years, you can kind of get a feel for who's not quite telling you the truth or who's maybe pulling your leg a little bit. The ones that tend to be the truest and most frightening are the ones that don't even really want to talk about it, and you have to kind of pry it out of them. And then once they see that you're not going to accuse them of being insane or a drunkard or something like that, then they come a little more forward with it. I've had people tell me stories that, like he's like, I never even told my wife that. That's just one of those things that scared me. I just kept it inside all these years. So that's usually a good indicator. But again, just because they thought they experienced something doesn't necessarily mean that that is what they actually experienced. It takes research and uh, reproducible results sometimes to prove that it is a fake. But the true anomalous stuff tends to be irreproducible, which is what makes it such an anomaly.
And on that note, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are cruising on through. I can't believe we're already through an hour tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Steve Stockton is with us tonight. He is part of the KPNL crew that we broadcast digitally on nightly, and we love Anne Celine and Steve for allowing us to share our show with KPNL audiences digitally, and we absolutely love it. And, you can find Steve all over. His books are on Amazon. You can find him everywhere on YouTube. I think he's got about 8,000 different YouTube channels, and they're all strong. 13 Past Midnight being one of them, which I listen to every night before I go to bed because I absolutely love it. More missing people. What causes it? Where are they disappearing to? Are they able to come back from wherever they go? Steve Stockton is our guest. We'll be back right after this. Steve, I'm just going to run to take a bathroom break here. I'm going to mute your mic, and we'll be right back. Okay, we got 6 minutes.
I'm going to do the same. I'll be right back.
All right, buddy. Be right back, YouTube. All right. We are back. Want to say a big thank you to Vinny, to Andrew, to Patrick, Adam, Michael times 3, Double Tim, Longhorn, Ed, Snakes, and Christopher for the amazing super chats tonight. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And we thank each and every one of you for helping us on out and supporting what we do each and every night here on Spaced Out Radio. Thank you to our brand new subscribers for coming on in and hitting that subscribe button. Don't forget to ring the bell. We are literally here 7 days a week, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time. And to all our regulars who show up, we love you. You know we do. We think the world of you. So thank you for making this show so special. Really do appreciate it. Hi, gorgeous Bat Mom. How are you? And a big thank you to all the veterans who listen to this show. We love you. And you always got a home here on Spaced Out Radio. So let us know if you're a veteran. And thank you so much for your service. We really do appreciate everything that you've done and the sacrifices you've made. Thank you so much. We got about a minute 20 to go here. And don't forget, tomorrow night on the show, who's with us tomorrow night? Oh, Robbie Antia. You may not know his name, but there's over 250,000 subscribers to his channel, Swamp Dweller. We're getting into creepypasta tomorrow night. It's going to be a blast. And then you got Lynn Wallington on the weekend on Saturday and Sunday night. And hold on, this may be an issue on Twitch's end. Okay, cool. All right. And no, we're all good. We are all good. And yeah, that's it. This is awesome. Steve will be back with us here momentarily. And yeah, we're going to have a great night tomorrow night. Great night. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got about 20 seconds left. Stevie Stockton, thank you for coming on in, brother.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Oh, got to get your camera organized here. Your camera went a little bit salty on us, but that's okay.
All right. Thanks for tightening it up. You can sell this junk behind me. I've just got a tapestry thrown over some boxes there.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. And we want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Zerophobus. Zerophobus is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Steve Stockton. He is a researcher, author of all things strange, weird, people going missing, Bigfoot, Dogman, everything in between. And we are talking about missing people tonight. And right before the break, Steve, we were talking about the logical answers to people going missing. This is something that I think a lot of people out there think we immediately jump on the woo, but we don't. We have to rule out logic first. So when you start to rule out the logic of somebody going missing, what are you looking for?
Look at things like trace evidence, whether there's footprints, whether there's sightings of that person, see if they maybe wandered off trail, any signs of animal predation, things like that, because you hear that a lot. Oh, well, a big cat got him or a bear got him. That does happen, but they don't eat every bit of a human. They certainly don't consume the clothes and things like that, and there will be evidence left of signs of a struggle, blood, and what, like a big cat, if they take somebody, what they can't eat, they'll cache up in a tree and a bear tends to try to bury theirs and put it in the brush. So it would be something that the dogs could hit on and find if it were an animal. So that's one of the biggest hints to me is when the dogs lose the scent and just sit down and won't go any farther.
A lot of times we have heard stories of these tracking dogs, these hounds, where not only will they lose the scent, but at times, Steve, they will all of a sudden start acting erratically, or
Mhm.
they'll lay down, refusing to go any further. Some even urinate on themselves because
Mhm.
something is scaring them, and that's what causes an animal to urinate on itself. So I'm curious, when that happens and you hear reports of that happening, what is your first instinct?
That it's some kind of apex predator. I mean, like other than a wild animal, something like a Bigfoot or dogman, or there's the predator creature that people talk about, the glimmer man or the translucent humanoid being that's similar to what was in the movie Predator thing that has some sort of cloaking energy. I can't remember the lady Jan. Her husband's a UFO researcher. She was in a tree stand with a bow and arrow looking for deer, and she captured a picture of something in another tree over from her that looked like a figure in saran wrap. She could see through it. So there's stuff like that out there that we don't know about. I mean, what even is that? So I think it's not just Bigfoot and a dogman and aliens and things like that, but there's probably other types of entities or creatures or things out there that we may not even be aware of or not completely aware of.
That's Bruce Maccabee's wife, right?
Yeah. I couldn't think
Yeah,
of his name.
that is an incredible, incredible story. The weird part about that one is, when she was having that experience, there
Hmm.
was a UFO seen hovering over the football field because the band was practicing, getting ready for homecoming, and a bunch of these teenagers with instruments witnessed this craft overhead. And if you go even a little bit deeper, Bruce Maccabee is very well known in the governmental UFO circle,
Hmm.
and including part of a secret group called the Aviary.
Yep. And yeah, that happened just a short distance from where she was in her tree stand. She was on the other side of the trees. That's where the high school and the football field was. So the UFO sighting and then this translucent being or whatever it was in the same area roughly. And you used to hear more about that. I remember the big UFO flap back in '73. I was 10 years old at the time, and that was one of the best summers I ever had. My brother lived up on a pretty good hill, and we go up there at night and sit out in his yard and watch the skies. And there were a lot of sightings during that flap, and a lot of times it would coincide with a Bigfoot sighting on the ground in the same area that you had a UFO sighting in the sky. So, was the Bigfoot attracted to the UFOs? Did they come out of the UFO? Were they some type of alien, or were they masking themselves as a hairy, man-like creature when they were really whatever reptilian or gray or whatever they were? It boggles the mind. There's so many different ways you can go with any of this, and there are really no hard and fast rules. I mean, there's people doing bits and pieces of different kinds of research, but I don't think anybody's ever put everything together into one. I don't know if you could or not, but there is a lot of overlap in the woo stuff.
Well, I tell you, it is strange and weird. Before we get to Chad's question here, I want to ask you in regards to people who are going missing and coming back. One of the ones that even those who go missing, pardon me, because one of the stories that really baffles me is when these things happen in big cities. Now, when you go into a big city or even a smaller town, you know there's other people around. There's sometimes shady people who
Mhm.
are around and trying really hard to hide and deviate from society and are looking to do something sinister. But I look at the cases and there's a bunch in Boston. It's happened in Vancouver and other major cities where you're out with a night with the boys and say there's 5 or 6 of you and you've had a few drinks and you're walking to the next pub or to the next restaurant or lounge and doing the city hop as many of us have done many a times, and one of your buddies says, hey, I'm just going to run into that alley, go behind the garbage can and take a pee or
Mhm.
something along. I mean, we've all done it. We know it's illegal, but we've all done it.
Mhm.
And your buddies are 20, 30 feet away waiting for you, and all of a sudden you're gone.
Yeah, that happens. We covered a case like that not too long ago where a guy, he'd either left or gotten kicked out of a bar and had called his girlfriend to come and pick him up. And he was literally right around the corner. And by the time she turned the street corner and got there, found his cell phone smashed on the ground. He was nowhere to be found. Nobody recalls seeing him. Certainly didn't see anybody take him or abduct him or anything. Never found. And then there's been other cases. One guy's last name was Schaefer. It's in Ohio, where he was in a bar with some friends. There's video of him entering the bar. He never came out. There was no video of him ever leaving. He was never seen again. He was in this bar. They know he was there. They had him on footage inside the bar, but he never left. So where did he go? And there's similar stories to that happens in cities and towns and things. And a lot of times when they are found, they're found in the water. Manchester, England, the local people there call it the pusher. They tend to think that somebody is pushing people into the water, people that are inebriated and whatnot. But the UK in particular has more surveillance cameras than anywhere I've ever been. And I lived in Las Vegas for almost 10 years. There's a lot of eye in the sky there. Well, the UK has even more. So again, there's footage of these people going into the pubs, whatnot, but there's never any footage of them coming out. There's never any footage of them going into the water, but then they find them in the water. And there's a lot of bodies, particularly in Manchester, that they fished out of the water. And that happens pretty much the world over from the research I've seen.
Chad is asking, what area in the United States would put someone of greatest risk of going missing? Land between the lakes, Skinwalker Ranch area, Crater Lakes, others?
Well, if you're talking about just as far as like a national park where odds are that you're more likely to go missing, it would be Yosemite. It's had more than 30 missing persons that have never been found, dating back to 1909. So then, and there's other places, Lake Mead, the Grand Canyon, they have numbers in the hundreds. Smokies has got quite a few. People warn about bear attacks and things like that. The most dangerous thing you can do in the Smokies is fly over it in a small plane. While researching the first book, found some evidence. There have been like over 30 small craft crashes within the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Now, they'll even tell you, like, there's signs up in the park that due to geomagnetic anomalies in the area, your compass may not work correctly or your guidance system. So I say don't fly over it in any planes. But there's other places that have that. There's a place in Kentucky where they have an anomaly that's magnetic that way. You have places where there are vortex. There's one in southern Oregon near Crater Lake, the Oregon vortex. There's one in Sedona, Arizona. There's one in Superstition Mountains. There's one on Mount Shasta. And nobody really knows what those are, how they work, but it's a lot of different people, New Agers and occultists and things, that's their power spots. It's like if you go into the UK, they have the ley lines where all these sacred ancient sites kind of fit along a certain line. If viewed on a map or from the air, you can see that they're connected logically. And I think we have that here. And that's another thing. We talked about the boulder fields and stuff. A lot of weird stuff happens in places where there's a lot of limestone. And particularly like in the southeast and along the Appalachian Trail, where you have all these people going missing, that whole area is covered with limestone caverns. So again, is there, that gets into some really woo stuff like alien lizard people that live underground in these caverns and come up and snatch people. And supposedly they're the ones that when you hear the voice in the cave that sounds like your grandma and you go in to investigate, then they grab you and take you to their underground lair. I mean, that's getting really far out there, but after you hear so much of these and look at so many different cases that make absolutely no rational sense, I don't discount anything.
No, and I could see that. Let's get to Heidi's question. Many of these other natural beings are hostile towards us. Steve, what do you think about that?
I agree. And again, like if you look at the Fae, they don't like us. If you look at the Nephilim, the fallen angels, they don't like us. We've got something they can never have, or we came in and took over. There are places like in the Nordic countries and things where they'll build a highway around an outcropping of rocks because they think there's gnomes or trolls that live in those rocks and they don't want to disturb them because doing so is bad luck. And it's been proven supposedly by them, that when they ignored that and blasted the rocks, then something would happen. They would create a stretch of road where suddenly there's all these unexplained crashes, and there's places like that here. It makes you wonder. There are certain stretches of road that tend to have higher crash and death rates when there's no real reason. There's not any particular type of geographic feature or anything, but it's just like it's cursed. And if you look at areas like the Skinwalker Ranch, going from New Mexico all the way up into, I think, all the way into Utah, there's a lot of cursed lands up there where the Apache and I can't remember the name of the other tribe, the witch doctors, the shamans, were at war, and they were both like flinging curses at each other. And a lot of those First Nations people will tell you there are areas that you want to avoid because of stuff that's been placed on it, that you run the risk of. I had this one incredible story of a guy that was driving home from college. I think he was going to college in, let's see, New Mexico, and his parents lived in Utah. And he was driving the old, it used to be Route 666. They had to change it because people kept stealing the sign. Why anybody would want that? Well, I have a pretty good idea. Maybe an Iron Maiden fan or something. But he kept seeing a hitchhiker. And the guy looked kind of weird and kind of shaggy. And he's like, yeah, I'm not going to pick that guy up. Well, like a half hour on down the road, he sees the same hitchhiker, but he looks a little shaggier and a little more unkempt. And this happened several times to the point that the thing had almost turned into some sort of a dogman or werewolf and was chasing him like alongside his car. And that's was told as a true story. And he was able to hide out in like an abandoned camping trailer or something until daylight. The thing went away. It was sitting on his car hood.
That is incredible. Steve, have you ever interviewed anybody who went missing in some weird fashion, but then reappeared and was found?
Sadly, no, because a lot of people, especially adults, they don't remember or they don't want to talk about it. And a lot of the children that have gone missing and they're then found later, they don't have any memory of it either. Now, I have talked to family members. I said I talked to Dennis Martin's dad briefly, but Trini Gibson that went missing in Great Smoky Mountains National Park in, I think that was 78 or 79. She was a couple years older than I was. We went to crosstown rival high schools, and she lived in the same neighborhood that Dennis Martin did. So kind of a weird little synchronicity there. She went missing from Clingman's Dome area. No trace of her, never found anything. Turned out my niece was good friends with her younger sister, and I got to talk to her sister a lot before she passed away. And it destroyed the whole family. You know, they just, the mom and dad got divorced. They would yell at the kids. The dad would drink and tell the younger sister, you know, I wish you'd been the one that disappeared, and just hateful things like that.
Oh, my.
And she said, you know, that part of me thinks that somewhere Trini just ran off with a guy, and she's in somewhere, you know, like maybe Southern California with a different name and living a perfect life. But she said, in my heart of hearts, Steve, I don't think she ever left that mountain alive. But that was one of those, it was just, the whole thing was a weird set of circumstances. It was a field trip from Bearden High School in Knoxville to the Great Smokies, which is like an hour and a half away. The kids didn't know supposedly where they were going until they were already on the bus and on the way there. And then when they got there, she hiked with several different groups of people, and they were actually on their way back from where they'd had lunch back down to the parking area to get on the bus home. Some of the other students said they saw her like stop and kind of look down in the woods off the trail, and then she stepped off the trail and into the pages of history. That was the last time anybody saw her. Another one of those where they combed the mountains, search and rescue, absolutely nothing.
A lot of times Sasquatch has been blamed for this. Now, you have looked into this.
Mm-hmm.
You have some theories about this. Do you think this primitive creature, whatever it may be, is causing a lot of these people disappearing?
I see that as a plausible theory. Go back to the Dennis Martin case. There's a family, last name of Key, they were in an area below Spencefield, several miles away. They'd ask a park ranger where they might be able to see a bear, and he'd send them over to this area. So they're in there poking around. They heard a scream. It was the most blood-curdling scream they'd ever heard. And this was just a couple hours after Dennis had disappeared, but they didn't know about the disappearance. And first the kids thought it was a bear. And the dad looked and said, that's not a bear. He described it as a very hairy or unkempt looking man, maybe wearing animal skins, and it was carrying something over its shoulder that was red. Well, Dennis had on a red shirt when he went missing. So there's talk that wasn't a man at all, or somebody, a woodsman or whatever wearing animal skins, that it was some type of Sasquatch creature that had taken Dennis and put him over his shoulder and took off into the woods. But then that brings into another part. I've got a video on missing persons and mysteries, and it's also a chapter in my book here about the Smokies, about wild men and feral people. There are stories in almost all the national parks, especially the ones on the East Coast, of some sort of feral, like cannibal hillbilly types that live in the woods that have been there for decades. Some even allege that that's why the National Park Service was formed, to create a place to keep these people, to keep them away from the populace, because they have a taste for human flesh. And then there's even another theory that there's some sort of Bigfoot human hybrid. And there's a guy that's got a channel here on YouTube called South Force 10. I don't know the man, but he lives in the Smokies. And he talks about that his relatives, like back in the 30s, were hired to go into the park and hunt these people before it was the park, to go in and hunt these wild people to kind of thin them out every once in a while. And he claims that they took Dennis Martin and they ate him. So there's all kinds of stuff out there. But, I looked into that, and even Dwight McCarter, he's retired now. He wrote a really good book. He was park ranger in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, the lead tracker. He was the lead on the Dennis Martin disappearance. He wrote an incredible book called Lost that talks about some of the disappearances and things that he dealt with. But even he admitted that there are feral people that live off grid way, way, way back in the mountains that never see anybody else or anything. Now, he didn't allude to it being Bigfoot or some kind of creature like that, but just nasty types of individuals. And I mean nasty in a mean way. They're probably nasty in other ways too, if they live out in the woods. But people that have never been out of the hills, that have never been out of the mountains, that like it that way. And there's whole families of them. And since they don't get out and don't meet new people, they're inbred and apparently have a taste for human flesh. So again, is that Bigfoot? Is it a hybrid? Is it just weird, crazed hillbillies that live out in the woods? And I've heard that about other places, and it's possible. I looked into it, and if you look into people that have intentionally gone into the woods to hide, Eric Rudolph is a good example. He was the Olympic bomber in Atlanta. The FBI was after him. One time he was number one on the most wanted list. He went into the Nantahala National Forest, which is just south of the Smokies, and was able to live there for 5 years undetected. So if this guy with minimal experience and know-how could go out there and survive for 5 years, then it's possible that there are people out there in areas where humans haven't been or may never have been, at least not in a long time. And the only way he got caught, he got a little bold and started sneaking into a little town there in North Carolina and rummaging through the dumpsters. And a rookie deputy saw him and recognized him from the wanted poster. But if he had stayed in the woods, he'd probably still be in there.
It's a good hiding place. And the longer you spend in the woods, the more that you become understanding of nature. And it's very easy to blend in with nature. I remember my buddy and I, we were driving, looking for Sasquatch prints. And as we're driving, my buddy says, "Oh, there's a moose." I'm looking in the trees. I'm like, "Where?" And, once you focus in on the area, once he pointed it out, there is no way that I would ever seen that, because the moose's legs, I only saw the hind end, but the moose's legs were blending in right with the trees, looking like tree branches, going up and down, or bare young trees.
Yeah, you were talking about geocaching earlier. I used to do a lot of that, like back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it got to a point where I didn't even need the GPS. I could be just in the general area and just kind of scan the woods, and you could tell that something looked man-made or looked out of place, or it looked like where somebody had tried to hide something. It didn't look natural. And it's just one of those things, like you said, the more time you spend, the more time you see things that you wouldn't normally see, or you become aware of things like that.
And I think a lot of us, as we got about 45 seconds to go, I think a lot of us, Steve, have, we're so used to society. We're so used to pavement and people and sounds and noises and cell phones and vehicles that we don't understand that going back hundreds, if not thousands of years, this is the type of terrain that we were living in.
Absolutely. And I think that's, like you said, it's been bred out of us through convenience and instant gratification. The world's gotten smaller with the electronics and stuff, but we've lost our inherent abilities of things like that, like direction and things. I know people that you could take them out in the middle of the woods and put them out. They'd find their way out without a compass or a map or anything. Now I'm talking mountain people, like from over on the Cumberland Plateau in Middle Tennessee, where my dad's from. There was people over there that had lived out in the middle of the woods,
Right,
away from anybody. So,
Steve, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Steve Stockton, our guest tonight, missing people, cryptids, monsters. Do they tie together? We'll find out more with Steve Stockton on Spaced Out Radio right after this. We're clear? Yeah, good reminder. Thank you, Christopher Morales, that the Perseid meteor showers are beginning, and they're always fun to watch. Hi, Iron Dogger. How are you? Thank you, Melissa. I never heard the hillbilly headhunters before, man.
yeah, there's, if you Google national parks and feral people, you can find out a lot about that. And here on YouTube, look for South Force 10. This older guy, I think he's like in his 60s or something. And if even half of what he's saying is true, there's some serious stuff out there that you don't hear a lot about, or you may never have heard about. And it's not just in the Appalachians either, but according to him, it's, just basically anywhere where there's a national park or national recreation area or untamed wilderness, that there's a reason that was put into that program, was to keep whatever's there in there to some degree.
Mm-hmm. Mogollon Monster, how are you? Jazz Ramblings, good to see you, kiddo. Isn't it your bedtime? Apparently, up here, we've had, sorry to change topics, we've had moonless nights lately. And last night I went out after the show, and, oh, God, the Milky Way was sitting right over top of my house. Right over top of my house. And apparently, and if you use a spotting scope tonight, or an astroscope, if you have one, you'll be able to see Saturn's rings tonight, if you got clear skies. Hi, Silent Edge Manny. How are you? Gorgeous Marie, welcome back. Chris Moe in Austria, thank you for joining us. Felden, I apologize. The chat room has been kind of nuts tonight. Could you repost your question if you don't mind? And I promise you I'll get it to Steve. 281 people watching tonight so far.
Yeah, that's
Hi,
pretty
Kat.
good numbers.
Oh,
I tried to keep up with the chat for a while, but it's just so far out of control. Yeah, Melissa Nicole, if you can put my email address in there if anybody has a personal experience or something they would like me to put on the listener stories episode of Missing Persons and Mysteries, send that in. Or if you just want to talk about weird stuff, I love getting email.
Awesome. Little Marky Spender is here, Timber Hunter. That's my buddy, who promises Steve that if we ever come across a grizzly bear, he will shoot me first. Isn't that a nice friend? Yeah, that's Little Marky Spender. All right, hey, Bigfoot and Rob, how's the water going? You're underwater. Are you okay? Are you safe?
Hector, I've never seen a Sasquatch myself. I've smelled them. I've heard them. I've heard the whoops and the yells and the tree knocks. I've been pelted with stones from an unidentifiable source from different directions. And I've seen footprints above the snow line in the Gifford Pinchot National Forest across the river here in Washington. But never seen one. I hope to. Went to Squatch Fest a couple weeks ago and met Bob Gimlin. Have you ever met him, Dave? He's a character.
I've never had a chance to meet him yet.
He's 89 years old, almost 90. He probably won't be doing too many more of those appearances, but he seems hale and hearty and in good shape. and I bought a framed or a print of one of the film frames from the Patterson Gimlin film there, and had him sign it.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
I've got it right here, I think. Show you this real quick. If you can see that or not, but
there you go.
There we go.
Beautiful.
And down at the bottom, Bob
Gimlin,
and he's got the date on there that they saw Patty there.
Nice.
10/20/1967. But that's awesome. I've marveled over this since I was a kid, and to get a frame of it that's signed by Bob, and I'm so glad they gave him some recognition on that. For years and years and years, it was just the Patterson film. And now they actually call it the Patterson Gimlin film, and that makes me feel good. But he's a swell guy. He acted like he knew me. That kind of blew me and Ann away. She went with me up there. And I was walking by. I was actually going to Clyde Lewis's table and going to come back to Bob. And I looked over, and he's staring right at me, and he goes, "Hey, kid." And he starts waving me over.
Nice.
I walk over, and he grabbed me by the hand, getting a real firm handshake. And he's like, "How you doing?" And Ann was like, and later she's like, "Did you know him? Have you ever met him before?" I'm like, "No, I'd remember that." But
hey, maybe he's listening.
I hope so. I think he maybe watches Missing Persons and Mysteries. But then before we left, I went back and bought a copy of that.
I would too. Hey, I just want to give a quick shout out to Heidi, Gabe, Chad, Vinny, Andrew, Patrick, Adam, Michael ×3, Tim, Longhorn, Snakes, and Christopher for the amazing super chats tonight. Thank you to all our new subscribers, pushing us over 13,000. I love that it's bought and paid for. Here we go. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Really appreciate earning your listening ears and for you tuning on in. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, do us a favor, check out our archives because they're free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight talking mysteries, missing people, monsters. Steve Stockton is here. You can find all of his books on Amazon. Steve, welcome back.
Thanks, Dave. Glad to be here. This went fast.
Oh, yeah. You know, we may have to keep you right to the top of the hour in hour 3.
Okay.
If you're up for it and you feel good, let's just do it. Let's just run with it. We'll do the full show with you. All right. YJ is asking, has anyone ever cross-referenced disappearances with the Hadron Collider particle smashing events?
Not that I'm aware of, but that would be a good thing to look into, because I think what they're doing there is, and the stuff, everything in general at CERN is affecting things in ways that people don't realize, or maybe not everybody realizes anyway, like the Mandela effect and some of that stuff. There are things that just aren't the way they used to be. And I know a lot of people point toward CERN, but it's interesting. But I would like to see somebody cross-reference that. I'll suggest that to my writers and see what they can come up with.
Hector down in Mexico is asking, have you ever studied up on chupacabras, a Latin American monster?
Yeah, the goat suckers. I've read about them. I've heard about them. I've never seen one. I've seen some footage that claims to be a chupacabra. I think didn't those start like in Puerto Rico or somewhere like that, and then they started seeing them in Mexico, and then I've heard that they're in Texas as well. But frightening. I wouldn't want to encounter one from the eyewitness reports and sketches and things that I've seen.
No kidding. To me, I still believe that's just mangy coyotes.
Could be. Somebody else in the chat was asking if I'd ever heard of the Bell Witch. Absolutely. I grew up in East Tennessee. Now, that's more of a middle Tennessee thing, but that was playground legend growing up. There was a story about a book at the main library that you could never get. It was the story of the Bell Witch by one of the Bell family. and it was always checked out. It was like it never came back in. Well, it turns out somebody had been reading it in bed and had a heart attack and died. And that was the whole thing, that it was cursed, and that's why the library wouldn't let it go. But the truth of the matter was, it was just so popular, they kept it in the reference section, and you could only read it in the library. But on the playground, the book was cursed. And also heard of the Bloody Mary thing when they play in the mirror. Well, there was a version of the Bell Witch. There was a game like that. You go to a darkened room and all the lights out, close the door, stand in front of the mirror and say, "I don't believe in the Bell Witch," 3 times, and she was supposed to reach through the mirror and scratch you. So I've been to the Bell Witch farm, been to the Bell Witch cave. Chris Kirby, that her and her husband currently own that property. She's a very wonderful lady and will give you an amazing tour of it there. Her husband had some kind of strange encounter in the cave. He won't have anything to do with it. But Chris is in and out of there all the time. She's got books full of photographs of anomalous things that not only she, but other people have captured, even dating back to like Polaroids and regular print film and stuff. There's definitely something there.
All right. Tony is asking, Steve, have you had any accounts of night crawlers?
Oh, those are some of the creepiest things I've ever seen. I've heard of just the common ones, the ones in San Diego, and then they've been seen again at Yosemite. It looks like just a pair of legs, or maybe a pair of legs on stilts, walking. There's no body, no head, no arms, no visible means of support. There's been people try to claim that it was a puppet, that it was some kind of put on. But when you go back and look at the footage and then look at the area in the daytime, there's no way you could have gotten in there to do anything like that. The area is just too small. And I mentioned the show Fact or Faked earlier. They tried to replicate it, and they could get close, but it took a lot of rigging and like a crane and custom puppets and a puppeteer or two and things like that. So there was, I think it's just some kind of weird creature. There's a Native American legend that talks about those particular things, and I can't remember what the native word for it is, but it's literally legs that walk. So
it looks like and I hate to put it this way, man, but to me, it looks like these night crawlers look like a pair of MC Hammer pants that never got out of 1992. And if I ever see one, I swear to God, I'm going to start playing Can't Touch This just to see what they do.
That, to me, that's just, there's something so frightening about them. And they don't necessarily look evil or feel evil, but there's just something so not right about them.
You kick them in the nards because they have no arms? I don't know. Let's get to Feldon's question. Says, and I like this one. I'm going Bigfooting. Thank you for not saying squatching, because I wouldn't have asked the question. All right. I'm going Bigfooting next weekend, where I grew up at in Northeast Oklahoma with some amateurs. Do you have any advice?
For me, I would say just be aware of your surroundings. Listen, look, try to take it all in. You can miss things a lot of times. I've been with other people. I've seen things that they didn't, where a lot of times big feet will do things to the trees. They'll pile up, almost like make a little teepee thing out of the trees. They like to do things with trees and branches. And a lot of times if you look up, you can see where they've done stuff too. That's one thing that I've found where you can find activity and things. And most people don't look up. Most people look down when they're in the woods. That doesn't occur to me to not look up, because again, if there's big cats or things in there, that's where they're going to be. And likewise, people sometimes hide in trees and surprise people. I did that one time as an experiment in my neighborhood. I climbed up in a pine tree on a sidewalk, and I sat up there for several hours. Half the neighborhood walked right underneath me and had no idea I was up there. So look up. But now there are things supposedly you can do to call Bigfoot to you. I mean, there's people that do the Bigfoot calls, and there's a guy out here in Washington State that goes out in the woods and takes a drum set with him, and he plays the drums, and he says that attracts Bigfoot. He had one jump across the road in front of him one time. So who knows? Try something like that. Sounds, noises. But now, one thing I've always wondered, Dave, and maybe you have an answer for this: these guys that on TV that do like the Bigfoot mating calls, what would happen if they were successful? That you suddenly had an amorous Bigfoot charging out of the woods, what would you do? Run?
Well,
take one for the team?
Well, you know what? I hate to interrupt there, but up north of where I live, like kind of where I live here, just
Mhm.
outside of SOR headquarters, is the Alaskan Highway, or in Canada we call it 97 Highway. The Americans call it the Alaskan Highway.
Mhm.
Okay, and this is where the Highway of Tears kind of starts.
Mhm.
And I was talking to a First Nations lady one time. This is going back probably 7, 8 years ago, way before I started the show. And she sat back and she told me her cousin's wife is one of the missing women. And a lot of First Nations believe, and I'm not trying to overstep my boundaries here, if anybody is First Nations, I'm just going by what I was told.
Mhm.
They believe that at least 20 to 30% of the women who have gone missing there have actually been taken as Sasquatch wives. And this is something that this type of story goes back hundreds of years,
Yep.
because they believe many First Nations believe that the Sasquatch, for some reason, there's a real shortage of female Sasquatch, and
Mhm.
because they're so intertwined with humans and human DNA, that they are able to breed with human females.
Yeah, I've
Have-
heard similar stories to that, and there are a lot of reports of Sasquatch that take particular attention to females.
right.
And it seems to be especially when it's that time of the month. For some reason, the
Yes.
Sasquatch knows that. I've heard about
Hmm.
women like being in a second floor bathroom and seeing something peer in the window. You know, that
Yeah.
big hairy something.
And that is, I apologize for cutting you off,
No
but
worries.
that is actually one of the things she brought up, that if you look at the statistics, the majority of women who have been taken were either pregnant around their menstruation cycle,
Mhm.
or they are within 1 year of giving birth. So
Wow.
they've already given birth, and it's within that first year of the baby's life that they
Mhm.
go missing.
And that's in the Fae folklore too. There are certain fairies that will steal human babies because the same thing. They want the DNA, they want the human blood to intermingle with theirs so they can create a changeling. So
Right,
again, it all comes back to Fae right now. But
right.
yeah, I don't doubt that at all. Like I said, Sasquatch has shown an interest in women. But two of the most unusual Bigfoot cases I've ever heard of were on Mount Shasta in California. One year, there was a lady that claimed she saw a female Bigfoot giving birth on a slope on Mount Shasta. And then the next year, at almost the same time of year, another lady claims that she observed a female Bigfoot nursing a baby Bigfoot. So if you think about it, one saw it give birth, the other saw it nursing a year later. It's probably the same Bigfoot. But you never hear of anything like that. That's the first and only reports like that I've heard. There may be more out there that I'm not aware of.
Well, I just want to tune right back to Feldon's question here for a second about advice on being safe. The best advice that I could give you is, don't worry about finding the Sasquatch. Worry about your own safety first.
Mhm.
Bring a first aid kit, even if it's a fanny pack pouch. All right, bring a knife, bring tape, bring rope with you. Fill a backpack of safety items, including candles, including fire starters, and everything. Because in the end, whether or not you find Sasquatch, or you find a footprint, or you find nothing, your own safety is most important. Bring a
Absolutely.
bring a flare with you. So that is probably the best advice that I could give. And if you're looking for evidence, bring rubber gloves.
Yeah.
Always bring rubber gloves, and know your poo.
Yeah.
Seriously, know your
That's
poo.
I didn't think about safety. I was thinking about how to find a Sasquatch, but you're right. Water. Pack like you're going for a couple of days, even if you're just going to be in there for a few hours. It could save your life. And speaking of, I remember a while back, Butch Wachowski had what he thought was a Bigfoot scat. Did you ever hear anything about that? What they found
No,
out on that?
I
Or
will have to ask him about that. So next time Butch is on, I know you'll be in our chat room. So make
Mhm.
sure you ask that.
I'd love to know about that.
Let's go to 509er's question here. Are light workers Mandela effectees, ET contactees, or just conspiracy theorists?
Well, I can see a lot of overlap in those areas, but I think they're just experiencers. I think the conspiracy theorists are people that just try to put it together in a different way. And usually it's, something shadowy, the government or the lizard people or something like that. But I think they're all experienced. And with the light workers, you also have people in there like remote viewers and things like that that have some sort of special abilities. The Mandela effectees, that seems to be like there's different timelines. Certain people will remember things a certain way and other people don't. And then the ET contactees, they're almost a totally different group altogether, I think. But some of the most sincere people that I've ever heard give their version of things that happened to them were the ET contactees. I saw Travis Walton speak one time, and he is either what he says really happened or he's the most incredible actor ever and should get an Academy Award because he's so sincere, and you can see in his eyes that he's reliving that fear and that terror. I mean, he was scared to death when all this was going on.
Very true. All right. Hector in Mexico is asking, are all these creatures related maybe to UFOs or interdimensional beings?
I think they very well could be. So there's a lot of overlap. Like I said, there's been a lot of UFO sightings where there would be a Bigfoot sighting at or around the same time, or at least in the same location. Some of the stuff that was happening at Skinwalker Ranch, you had cattle mutilations, cattle disappearing, people appearing. There was one story where the lady, I can't remember the name of the family that lived there when the stuff started happening, but she was washing dishes, looked out the window, saw a portal open up. A dog man comes strolling out, or a skinwalker, or whatever it was, on two legs, comes strolling out with a scowl on its face. The portal closes up and it just toddles on along. And they said another time she was looking out a window, she saw what looked like a circle or a portal open up out in the field. There was a guy sitting at a desk, writing or typing or something. He looks up and notices her, does something on the desk, and then the portal closes back. So what in the world? I think that's some sort of interdimensional technology or something, some kind of governmental thing that we're not aware of. I mean, there's all kinds of, you got the Black Ops and the Skunk Works and all that out there. There's so much we don't know about that does exist.
Vinny, I love Vinny's question. Are there any friendly creatures out there?
I think there are. There are creatures that have helped people. Sometimes not so much. I think maybe it's just an individual creature. Like there are certain humans that are nice and there are some that are not nice. Talking about the Glimmer Man and this translucent humanoid or whatever, it's usually considered a malevolent being and people get an aura of fear off of it. But I heard a story recently where a lady encountered one. It walked through the sliding glass door without opening it into her kitchen and removed a lump from her forehead that had been diagnosed as cancer. She said the thing just kind of grabbed her and she heard this sucking noise and felt something on her forehead. And then the next time she went back to the doctor, the tumor was gone. So that's the first time I've heard of a benevolent Glimmer Man. And then the same with Flannel Man. That's usually people get a sense of evil off him. But I had a story from almost 18 years ago. It was in my first book. Before I'd ever even heard of Flannel Man, that turned out to be a Flannel Man story. A guy that I knew very well had gotten lost in a state park and it was in there for a couple of days and had gone in without anything. I think he had a GPS, but it died. He didn't check the batteries. And he literally thought he was going to die and heard a noise, a rhythmic noise. Turned out there was a guy chopping tree, and he described Flannel Man. He was wearing the buffalo plaid print, the red and black print, was in there hacking away at a tree with an axe. And the guy asked him, help me, I'm lost, how to do to get out here. And said the guy with the axe just kind of looked at him and pointed up the bank. Well, he took all the rest of his strength, but he crawled up the bank and collapsed. There was actually a dirt service road up there. Within a few minutes, a truck came along. A park service employee gets out and helps him in. And, it's like, oh, I'm so glad to see you. If it hadn't been for the guy down there chopping trees, I'd be a goner. And so the park ranger kind of looks at him and says, yeah, let me go take a look. Goes down over the bank, comes back up in a few minutes, gets in the truck. They drive the guy to the ranger station. And he's in pretty bad shape, so they decide they better call an ambulance. Well, while they're waiting for the ambulance, the guy that had been lost says, I hope I didn't get the woodcutter in too much trouble. What'll happen to him? And the ranger said, son, there was nobody down there chopping trees. There's no evidence anybody that had ever been there cutting trees. He said, we sort of frown on that sort of thing. So that's a Flannel Man story before I'd even heard of Flannel Man. Like I said, that's from 18, almost 20 years ago.
Good Canadian kid, that flannel man. You know, they just disappear, them Canadians. We got about 5.5 minutes left. Let's get to Sasquatch's question. What do you know about Will-o'-the-Wisp leading people away and never to be seen again?
I've heard those stories. They were also known as ghost lanterns and fairy lights. Again, back to the Fae. That's common in the Smokies. The Cherokee have stories of. It's kind of like I don't want. I can't remember the Cherokee words for it, but it means little person, little people. They believe there's a race of people in there that are 2.5, 3 feet tall. So they were at war with them at one time. They tolerate each other now, but they claim that they have lanterns, lights that they can lead you astray and you're never heard from again, or they can rescue you. I've heard stories of both, where I guess depending on whether they like you or not, they can lead you out to safety or lead you into something else. I had one story from a guy that was hunting, not in the park, but near the park. And this was back in the days of the old carbide lanterns. You put a chunk of, as a miner's light, you wore it on a hat or helmet, put a chunk of calcium carbide in there and some water. It gives off a flammable gas. You had a little reflector on the hat, and the flame, it provided enough light that you could see in the woods. Well, his flame had gone out. He ran out of carbide, and he saw what he thought was another hunter with a lantern in front of him. So it's like, okay, well, I'll follow that guy, or at least catch up with him and make my way out of here. So the area he's going through, he watches the lantern go through this one particular area. When he starts to go through there, he steps off a short slope, like a bluff, a sheer bluff that's about a 12-foot drop. Messed his legs up, jammed his shotgun into the ground, both barrels. But he said, yet I watched that light like somebody walking across there. He said that it was like whatever it was did that on purpose to lead me off that little bluff and try to injure me. And then, like I said, likewise, I've heard stories of people that were lost and followed a light and it took them out, and then there was nothing there. The light just disappeared or went up, or kind of like Brown Mountain, North Carolina. I've been over there to see the Brown Mountain lights several times. I used to live up in extreme northeastern corner of Tennessee. They're not too far from Boone, North Carolina. And that's some of the most amazing phenomena I've ever seen. There's been people from Duke University and several scientific universities and outfits study those. They've looked into the seismic activity, whether it's some sort of piezoelectricity. It's not, but those have been seen since before automobiles or trains even, or anything that could account for that. And the story goes that there was two different tribes at war there, and that's the spirits of the natives still running back and forth. First time I saw it, it looked like somebody with a fluorescent lantern almost running through the woods. And I thought, man, this could be easy to fake. But I'd gotten there after dark. I spent the night. When the sun came up, the area where I saw the lights was almost like a sheer cliff, and there was no way anybody could run through there. You couldn't even walk through there, let alone run. But then they don't even stay in the trees. Sometimes they'll be up above the trees, and they go down into the valley there. Wiseman's Overlook, you can see all that. But I've probably seen them a dozen times or so. I never went once that I didn't see them at least a few minutes. And sometimes, especially in the summer, they put on a lengthy show. Change color, split into two or three, go back into one. No explanation for it.
Amazing. We have 2 minutes left. Let's get to B. Hoff's question about goblins. You have any goblin accounts?
Well, I don't have any personally, but again, that falls under the Fae. The goblins are a type of the Fae. They're mischievous. They like to do things, take things. I've heard stories of goblins. Heard a story came out of Riverside, California, about a guy that was driving along and something jumped out in front of his car. He said it looked like a scarecrow with a pumpkin for a head. It said it had long arms, like several feet long. It was reaching out and like scratching at his car. He had a 22 pistol with him, got out and shot at it. The thing made like a gibbering noise and ran away. And there were these deep scratches in the hood of his car. And that's what he described as some sort of goblin creature. So there's stuff out there that's inexplicable. Sometimes stuff like that's only seen one time. A lot of one-offs, like the Dover Demon in Dover, Delaware, or New Hampshire. I forget where it is. somewhere up in New England. Thing that looked kind of like a gray, but wasn't. Some sort of pale white little creature with suction cup fingers that ran down in a ditch and held onto a tree and stared at a guy. And I should know where that was at because I actually talked to one of the witnesses. It's the city of Dover, but I can't remember the state. Dover, let me take a look here real quick. Dover Demon. But there are other things like that. I mean, you got the Jersey Devil. I think that's a type of goblin or some type of creature. I know people that have encountered things in the Pine Barrens. There's some creepy stuff and some that's kind of strange, but maybe has a normal explanation. A guy was telling me about he found a pizza in the Pine Barrens. Like just they were hiking and they came across like a fresh pizza just on the ground in the box. The box was open. He said it's a pepperoni pizza. What was that? Was that bait? Was that somebody trying to, was it poison? Was it laced with something? And he saw all kinds of strange things in there.
Steve, I'm going to get you to hold on right there.
Okay.
We're losing track of time here because Steve Stockton, our guest, is literally scaring the daylights out of us if you go into the forest. Find all his books on Amazon. Weird, strange creatures. We continue with Hour 3 next on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear.
All right. How long we got for this one?
6.
Okay. I'll be right back.
All right. Thank you, Ozzy Steve, for the awesome super chat. Hector, thank you as well, my friend. Really appreciate you. I'm way behind in the chat room again, guys. I apologize. I was caught up, but then we got caught up on some questions there and kind of go from there. We'll find out about the Wendigo, Sonia. By the way, do me a favor. All right. Our good friend here, Sonia. Where did your post go now? I just saw it. There it is. Okay, our good friend here, Sonia. Look how beautiful she is. All right. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I checked out her YouTube channel. I was subscriber number 37. Subscriber number 37. We're trying to get her to 100 subscribers. All right. So if you could do us a favor during the break, go over to Sonia's channel, Sonia's News. That's Sonia with a J, apostrophe S, and then News. Let's get her over 100. All right. Let's get her over 100. Right. She's at 91 subscribers. Here's the channel. I'm going to share it. All right. Here's the channel. This has been my project for this week. All right. There's the channel. Go to Sonia's News. Let's see if we can get her over 100 subscribers tonight. She had 91. I'm sure with the 294 people watching right now that we could get her up to 100. There's got to be at least 9 people who will subscribe. I think out of 294 people that there is, at least we could get her to 130, 140. Can we all go over to Sonia's channel and let's give her a boost? She really wants to do videos. She hasn't done one in a couple of weeks. She gets real nervous. She's her own worst critic. If you listen to her, she's very knowledgeable, but very smart. And let's give her a boost. Let's give her a Spaced Out Radio boost and give her a quick subscribe, if you don't mind. All right. Look at that. 116. Let's hit 130. Let's hit 130. Yes, Sonia. I told you I was going to do it. I'm so happy. Thank you, listeners. Let's do it. Look at that. Hello, gorgeous Block Chic. What's happening? Yeah, let's hit 130 for her. We're at 116. 123. We're at 123. We need 7 more. Let's support her. Let's say to Sonia, we want to watch your stuff. You're damn good. We want to watch your little reports here. I think she's amazing. I like her reports. They're honest and they're from her heart. So let's do this. 126. We need 4 more. Can we get 4 more? Let's get her. Come on. 129. We need one. We need one. Let's do this. Boom. There it is. 131. Sonia, I love you. And I hope you're happy about that because I had a lot of fun with this. I really did. I had a lot of fun with this. So thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. And that means a lot. And Sinister Vax, thank you for the super chat. Really do appreciate it. You guys are amazing. Absolutely amazing. Sonia, you realize now you're at 136 now. You're going to have to put some new content out, my dear. You're going to have to put some new content out. I just forced you to put some new content out. Thank you, Melissa. We're glad you're here. We're glad you're here. Are we going to hit 140? We're going to hit 140? There's 137. Come on, let's hit 140. Do I hear 140? Oh, shoot. I better make sure that hold on. How much time do we got left? Hold on. I got to figure out my time here. All right. We got 90 seconds to hit 140. 90 seconds to hit 140. 138. We need two more. We need two more. One more. We need one more in 1 minute. One more in 1 minute. Let's do this thing. Well, we're at 139. 139. Let's do this. Who's going to be the one? Who's going to be number 140? There it is, 140 and 141. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I appreciate you guys, man. Totally appreciate you guys. And big thank you to not only all of you for supporting our good friend Sonia and her fledgling channel here. We're going to get her going. A big thank you to Sinister Vax, Hector in Mexico, Steve, Heidi, Gabe, Chad, Vincent, aka Vinny, Andrew, Patrick, Adam, Michael ×3, Tim, Longhorn, Snakes, and Christopher for the super chats. We're going to get going here in approximately 15 seconds. So sit back, relax. Steve Stockton is going to be with us here. And let's have some fun tonight, man. We're having a blast so far. Here we go. Steve, it's time for you to come back. Hope he didn't get lost.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet that we call Earth. I want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Zerophobus. Zerophobus is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with our good friend, and he's a mentor of mine. I love that beard and hair combination. Steve Stockton is here, and we're getting into monsters and all that sort of jazz. You know, Steve, I want to get into portals here because I think a lot of these situations where people go missing, they're walking into portals. And when they walk out of that portal, they don't even know that they've gone through, but they're on a different timeline, a different dimension, different whatever. And like nothing has happened to them. Yet on our timeline, poof, they're gone. What do
Mhm.
you think of that theory?
I believe that's a very, very solid theory from evidence I've seen, people that I've talked to, that things like that have happened to. I interviewed a lady on Missing Persons and Mysteries one time, talked about when she was a little girl. In her neighborhood, there was some people that had a Coke machine on their front porch. It was a way to make a little extra money and talk to their neighbors and stuff. People would go over, buy a Coke out of the machine, stand and talk. And she was on her way to get a Coke, and she passed by a man standing in a vacant lot. And he looked at her and said, and she's looking at the vacant lot and thinking, that'd be a good place to play kickball or whatever. Got to tell my friends about this. And she said the man kind of looked at her and said, "It's a beautiful day, isn't?" And before he could say, "Isn't it?" or whatever, he was just gone. He disappeared. So she's like, that's weird. She kept walking. She goes down the street where she's been dozens of times, gets a soft drink. She's walking back, and there's no vacant lot there now. Not only is the man gone, the vacant lot's gone. And she thinks that there was some sort of portal or time slip or something there, that somewhere in another time, another dimension, there was a man that saw a little girl walk by that disappeared. And she said, then when I thought about that, I knew there wasn't a vacant lot. I grew up on that street. I'd made that trip in a straight line to the neighbors that had the Coke machine and back dozens and dozens of times since I was old enough to go down there by myself. I knew there wasn't a vacant lot there. She said, sure enough, there was a building there, a house or something. So I think, and the way she described it, how she sort of had it figured in her head was that the time like that, the dimensions are like sheets of silk that you can kind of see through them. Sometimes they get close enough that they touch together. And when they touch, you can kind of see through both of them at the same time. And maybe, just maybe, sometimes part of what's on one piece will adhere to the other for a little while. And then when they separate, it goes back. And I think that's a good analogy. And I've covered missing person cases like that too, where persons, was walking along and suddenly nothing looks different. I turned around. I know that I came down this trail, but I don't recognize anything on the way back. The trees look different. The rocks look different. There's no road there. The water's on the other side. Things like that. I think that happens. And one of the strangest suppositions I've heard about that, there's two camps. There's these people that believe that there are stairs in the woods and people that claim that that's just a creepypasta. Well, my theory on that is if you had either some kind of craft that you landed in the woods on a regular basis, you would need something for people that couldn't levitate or whatever, some way to get in and out of that. Remember years and years ago when you flew on a plane, they'd actually roll the stairs out on the tarmac and you'd get on the plane or off the plane on a set of stairs and then they'd roll them away. Well, you couldn't roll those out in the woods. So what better thing to do than to build steps there so that when you were departing or arriving, boom, you got something to walk down. Or what better place to put a portal than at the top of the stairs? And again, like I said, people claim that that's just made up. But then if there were somebody trying to cover that up that didn't want you to believe it or know about it, that'd be the perfect ruse. That's just a creepypasta. That's made up. Those don't exist. And that's one of those things that I've seen almost fistfights break out over where there's stairs in the woods actually exist. I've never seen them, but I've talked to people that claim they've seen them. And I've even had people ask me that if you saw a set of stairs in the woods, would you climb it? I probably would, especially if I had my dog with me. I would step through a portal just to see what's on the other side. Probably be like the old Land of the Lost TV show from the 70s. I'd probably be in some land fighting dinosaurs or something, but I'd like to see what's on the other side. And if I had my dog with me, it wouldn't matter if I ever came back or not.
Our good friends at Third Phase of Moon are asking, because they're from Hawaii, and they are asking, have you ever had any reports of Sasquatch being spotted in Hawaii?
I have heard of a Sasquatch-like creature in Hawaii. I can't remember what they call it. Maybe a yowie? I don't remember. I've heard it called a yowie. That may be in Australia. But I have heard of some. Doesn't seem to be as big as the Bigfoot that you see in the continental states or in North America. But I've heard it's a smaller but equally hairy creature, and they have a lot darker, coarser fur. I can't remember the name of it, but there have been reportings of things like that there. Hawaii's got a lot of strange
the Night Marchers.
Folklore,
that's my
the
favorite
Night Marchers, Pele sightings. There's a lot of disappearances in Hawaii. Covered one today about a guy. There's a place there called, here we go, Stairs, a haiku stairs. It was a structure at one time that was used by the U.S. military. They had some sort of observation installation, and it's this really steep set of stairs that I think now doesn't go to anywhere except for an overlook, but it's been closed since 1985. And it's illegal to go there and hike up these. It's also known as the Stairway to Heaven because it's so steep. But there are still people that will sneak and hike it that risk arrest and fines and things. And there was a guy named, can't remember his first name, last name was Pua, that went missing. He climbed up there and they never saw him again. People saw him going up the stairs, but he never came back down. So something took him somewhere. And he had made some pictures with his cell phone. And in one of the pictures, it does look like a dark figure of a man hiding in the woods behind him or observing him or something. So a lot of strange things in Hawaii.
All right, let's move on. Abe, a good friend, Mennonite Abe. Steve, have you ever heard of the Green Children?
If it's the story I'm thinking about, so the boy and a girl that can't remember. I believe that was somewhere in Europe, somewhere in the UK, where the children showed up, and they claimed they were from a land, and they had a name for it. They had their own language and things, but it didn't exist on any globe or map or anything. And I think the boy got sick and passed away, but the girl lived to be an adult. And I may have that turned around. I'd have to look into my research. They didn't recognize food or anything really. There wasn't very much that looked appealing to them, but although the one that survived did begin to eat food and began to speak in English. And she claimed that, or he, whichever one survived, claimed that they were from a land. He gave the name of it and said that the sun shined all the time there. They had 2 or 3 suns or something like that. So it sounds like they were interdimensional or interplanetary or something and just showed up. And it's a fascinating case. But again, have no idea what anything like that is like.
Jules is asking, have you ever received any reports from the Gulf Coast, Alabama, and the vicinity areas?
There's a lot of weird stuff that goes on in the Gulf down there, a lot of UFO activity. Alabama, Pascagoula, Mississippi, Galveston, Texas, all the way over into the Florida Panhandle. A lot of UFO activity. There's phantom ships and things that they see out on the water. USOs, unidentified submerged objects. They see things moving around in the water, some type of machinery or craft that also can become UFOs. I've heard stories of things seen moving under the water. It looks like a small submarine or something, and then it takes off into the air and flies away. And as far as I know, we don't have any technology like that, not to the degree that this is described. And likewise, there have been things that didn't crash into the water, but landed in the water and then submerged. So I don't know. Do you think that maybe the government has flying submarines, Dave?
I don't think they do. I really don't. YJ is asking, Steve, is this possibly what they mean when they say the veil is the thinnest around Samhain?
Yeah, I agree. The Samhain, that's more of a druid traditional pre-Christianity thing. But yeah, there are certain times a year when the veil is thin between this world and the next. It's easier to communicate with spirits. If you're into that sort of thing, I know people that hold seances. Well, my grandmother, that side of the family on my mom's side, they came out of the spiritualism movement around the turn of the last century. They regularly held seances, table tappings, or table tipping, some people call it, pendulum dowsing. My grandmother was a self-proclaimed gypsy witch, although I don't know where she got the gypsy part because they were from England when they landed in Cades Cove here in the U.S. But apparently somewhere way back in the family history, there was they'd come out of Hungary or Romania or somewhere. But she called herself a gypsy witch. Nowadays in Appalachia, she's what was known as a granny witch or even a kitchen witch. And that's somebody that just uses what's at hand. They don't have any specialized tools. The bowl that she used for scrying divination the night before, you might be eating tater salad out of it the next day at dinner. Same, just whatever she used, whatever she had. But she told fortunes. She read tea leaves. She read coffee grounds, palmistry, phrenology, which that's kind of a lost art. That was where you could tell people about their destiny by the bumps and ridges on their skull. Animal entrails. That was another thing. They gardened and farmed and things. They did truck farming, produce, and they also raised cattle, horses, and hogs. And every fall, when they would slaughter hogs, she would pick out one that was hers. And when they slaughtered that one, she would poke around in its guts with a stick, and then she was able to tell what next year's growing season and farming season would be like. And according to my uncles who knew this sort of thing and worked on the farm and stuff, she was more accurate than the old Farmer's Almanac. If any of you older people know what that is.
That is awesome. That is completely awesome. Oh, okay.
So, but they talked about that there were certain times of the year when the veil was thin, and it is around that time of year. And it's part of the whole death and rebirth and thing like that, that, the fall represents the dying, wintertime, the things are dead, and then there's a rebirth in the spring. But I believe that. And there's certain hours of the day that the veil's thinner too, what they talk about being the witching hour. There's kind of an argument on that. Some people will say it's midnight. Other people will say it's between 2 and 3 in the morning. But any of those times, to me, I think can be the witching hour.
I love this topic because, I have family who are truckers. We have listeners like Game Vet and Andrew who are long haul truckers across the United States. And Adam is asking here, do you have any accounts of truckers seeing cryptids or anything weird while driving?
Yeah, truckers often report strange things. I mean, especially those the long haul guys that do the coast to coast runs and things like that, or really long distance runs. They see everything from Bigfoot to ghosts. There's a lady that's got a book called Trucker Ghosts, and her name escapes me right now. You may have had her on the show.
Annie Wilder.
Annie Wilder. I couldn't remember the Wilder part, but that's just one of the most fascinating books I've ever read. And it's all about these strange, mostly ghost type encounters that these truckers have had, but they do see other things too. I've heard of them seeing like chupacabras and Bigfoot, and heard one truck driver give an account of something that he described as a baby Bigfoot that was sitting on the side of the road looking sad, like had its lip stuck out like it was going to cry, and turned around and went back to look for it, and it was gone. And he thought it was like some sort of lost traveler, some little Bigfoot that got away from the parent and didn't know where to go, so he just sat down and waited on the side of the road. But this, especially some of these shows, Dave, you've probably got a lot of truck drivers that listen to you on terrestrial radio. That's just one of the things they do. I know Art Bell was famous for the truck driver contingency. He would have truckers that would call in that would listen to the show that would honk their air horn and stuff. There you go. Dave Scott is the new Art Bell. I've heard you called the Canadian Art Bell, so there you go.
That's what Grant Cameron says. You know what? There's only one Art Bell. The rest of us are playing second fiddle. That's all I will say.
That's some big shoes to fill, I'm telling you.
Way too big.
I was only on Art's show one time, and he was sick that night. Heather Wade, his producer, was on the show. And she had just started doing that. She was very nervous and she'd never even been a producer before. I thought she had a background in communications or something. No. She didn't. Art just picked her. And I was on with her. Art was ill, but during one of the breaks, he called in to tell her what a good job he was doing, and I'd told my black-eyed kid story, and Art heard that, and he said, Steve, that was a fascinating story. I was just like, wow, the man himself is.
He just talked to you. I never got a chance to talk to him.
And it was just patched through like that. I would love to have been on the show with Art, but unfortunately that never happened.
Oh, you know what the sad part about paranormal radio is that the best came first.
Mm-hmm.
We had to, in Canadian terms, we had to wait 70 plus years of hockey before we got Wayne Gretzky. Boxing had to wait centuries before Muhammad Ali. Basketball had to wait 50 years before Michael Jordan. Comes to paranormal radio, the first came out of the gate the best. And we're all playing second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth fiddle after that. It really is. And God bless Art Bell. Question from Sonia here. And she is asking, what do you know about the Wendigo?
It's a Native American creature, another shapeshifter. As just about all the things in the First Nations, like they have some sort of ability to change. And I believe they exist. I believe I encountered one once when I was a kid. A childhood friend ran into something. His parents lived way back out in the woods. Their driveway was a couple miles long. And about halfway up that driveway, there was an old shale pit there. And up on top of the shell pit, there was a little shack that was just falling in on itself. It had been a working farm at one time, several hundred acres. And we were down there in the shale pit looking for fossils, and we heard some kind of noise. We both looked up about the same time, and in the window of this little shack, there was a thing, Dave. It had like the skull of a horse, but without any skin on it. It had big round eyes, but instead of on the sides like a horse, they were in the front, and it had sharp teeth. I don't know what it was, but it growled at us. And I couldn't see if it had antlers. Now, I've seen drawings of Wendigo with and without the antlers, and we could only see it from, about just below the neck up. But it's whether it was a rictus grin or a hungry grin, it was frightening. So we ran screaming back up the driveway. And his mom finally got us calmed down to some degree, and his dad came out. His dad was just a real no-nonsense kind of guy. And he was a full-blooded Cherokee. He grew up on a reservation. And he's like, you boys shut up. He's like, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to see what this thing is. Took his shotgun, went down the hill. We're waiting out in the front yard, drinking Kool-Aid and scared to death. And kept waiting for, screaming and shooting and growling. Nothing. Not what seemed like forever, probably 15, 20 minutes. We were kids. He came back up the driveway. He's got a shotgun over his shoulder. And he just had a weird look on his face. And he took us over under an apple tree. I'll never forget this. And he said, I want you boys to promise me that you'll never, ever go back down there around that shack for any reason. And we did. And I've kept that promise to this day. I don't know if my friend ever went back down there or not to the shale pit. And then a couple of weeks later at school, my friend told me, he's like, that shack that we saw that thing in? And I'm like, yeah. He said, my dad pulled it down into the shale pit with a tractor and burned it. So whatever he saw, and then being First Nations, he knew it was something. I think it was probably something sent for him, or it had something to do with him, because he knew what it was, but just wouldn't talk about it. And that's another Native thing. The elders will caution you about talking about things or even thinking about things in some respects, almost like a tulpa. You feed energy into it, and it can come after you. There's certain things that you don't name out loud or you'll get in trouble.
Absolutely. And, you're not, even us mentioning the word Wendigo or Skinwalker, is supposed to cause harm. And because we're putting it out there to the public. Let's move on here. Race Fan is wondering if you have any updates on the Todd C's missing person case.
I haven't heard any updates. Now, isn't that the one where they found him in a tree, or they found part of him in a tree, and
the rocks?
Had the Forerunner there, or whatever, four-wheeler.
And an area that had been searched every day while he was missing. And the searchers had to walk past that area point every day in order to get into the bushes.
And that's a common thing in these cases. I couldn't tell you how many times people are eventually found in an area that's like that, where they've walked right by them. They've searched the area multiple times. Different search and rescue, different volunteers, dog teams, and then yet just there they are, just like they turned up there. But that is a very strange case. I can't remember something had to do with a tree. They found either part of him or parts of his clothing or something way up in a tree.
I believe, too.
And the Forerunner or whatever kind of toy he was riding there, I think he still had the keys in it. Might have even been still running or something when they found it. And he'd just gone out to have a look around, and then that was the last they ever saw of him. But I know they tried to blame that on drugs or something. Supposedly he had cocaine in his system or something like that. But I think that's beside the point. But this is a strange case.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. So we continue on with Steve Stockton tonight. We got about 90 seconds before we have to go to break. Greco, Opa to you, Greco. Do you believe there might be any middle civilizations?
Now you're talking about Middle Earth type things, like
I would assume so.
That's what I'm thinking. I think so. I mean, like in Gemma's book, where she goes into depth about the Fae and their hierarchy, they have queens, they have royalty, they have they're almost like ant colonies. They have workers and people that they work for, people that direct them, like almost treat them like slaves and things. I think there is civilizations in a hierarchy like that among elves, gnomes, trolls, the Fae, elementals, any kind of guardians and things like that. I think there are ones with greater powers and ones with lesser powers, and they would almost, if they exist together, if they coexist, they would almost have to have some kind of civilization. Otherwise, it'd just be chaos.
It totally would. It totally would. You know what? I'm excited about?
What's
I'm
that?
excited for the fact that you're going to stick around the next half hour.
Okay, no problem.
I really do appreciate you sticking around and being. I wasn't fooling earlier when I asked you that an hour ago during the break. So I'm going to just call it right now. We're going to go the distance here. Steve
Okay.
Stockton. He is
My
one of
pleasure.
the. If you want,
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
I just
no.
put you on the spot.
My pleasure. I do ghost stories at midnight. I'm going ahead and setting that up in the background now. So when I finished here, my people that are expecting me there, I'll just go right on over. So yeah, I can go right up to midnight, even a little
All right.
after if you need me to.
No, we'll be good until the time runs out. And yeah, let's put that up because I know your address, if anybody needs to get a hold of you, stevestockton81@gmail.com. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio when we return. Creepy stories with one of the best storytellers. 13 past midnight is his channel. I listen to it when I go to bed each and every night. You should too. Steve Stockton, one of the best. We got him for another 30 minutes here. Let's rock and roll. Be back right after this. We got 5 minutes, Steve.
Okay, I'm going to take another.
Do you have enough
break.
time?
Oh yeah, I've already got my software that I stream with running in the background.
Okay.
It takes like 30 seconds to fire everything up.
All right. But are you live on that, or are you just monitoring it?
I go live for like the first hour or two, just go in and do a monologue. And I think most people just show up for that. And then afterwards, I play recordings from LibriVox. It's a company that takes books that are in the public domain, and then they narrate them and then release that recording out into the public domain. So anybody can do anything with them. They've got a good fictional ghost story collection. I've been doing that. I think this is, I want to say night 188 in a row. I've been doing it about 6 months every single night.
Wow.
And then on Missing Persons and Mysteries, production videos over there. And then Friday we have Campfire Stories. And then Sunday we do the Fireside Chat with Jim and I, where we just talk about what we're doing and things that we're into.
I want to come hang out with you one night.
Okay. Well, come this Friday if you want to. Missing Persons and Mysteries, Campfire Stories. Special Friday the 13th episode. We can have up to 8 guests. I use StreamYard for that one.
Right.
So come over and you can sit on the panel, do whatever you want to do.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
And yeah, that channel, it is absolutely blown up. We just passed our 100,000 subscribers.
Congratulations.
I can't believe it, man.
Did you get your plaque? Are you getting your plaque from YouTube?
Get the plaque. I can't wait. That's going to mean more to me than any award, certificate, degree, anything I've ever received. That play button means more. Even more than the blue ribbon that I won in the 6th grade science fair that somebody stole off the exhibit before I even got to take it home. But play button, I'm going to unbox it on the air.
Oh, dude, I want a photo of you holding it up like a championship belt.
Yeah, I'll do it. I got to run back here for just a second, but I'll be right back.
So exciting. 100,000 subscribers. I hope we're able to one day get there. Thanks, Race Fan. Appreciate that. What a great show. 13 past midnight is the channel. 13 past midnight. That's his creepypasta channel. Steve is great on YouTube. Great. And thank you. I mean, we've had a hell of a jump in subscribers tonight because of Steve. We really have. It's going to fire up my trolls even more. What are we at? 13,008. So we jumped a number of subscribers tonight. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, gorgeous Jenny Metz. Hey, look at that. There's Cousin Gary right there. Everyone say hi to Cousin Gary. Gary has a 52-year-old mustache. He got it when he was like 9 years old. He glued it on, and it is still there today. Wham Bam Ham, how you doing? Thank you for joining us. What's little Marky Spender messaging me about? Oh, Katie, his daughter Katie is listening. Hi, Nomi. How you doing, beautiful? I love you. Yeah, Katie is like another daughter to me. Love her. And Katie, you're awesome. Hi, little Marky Spender. Hi, Baxter. Or is Baxter gone to bed? Cousin Gary there, he just sneaks in. He's like our hit and run guy. You know, he throws in one quick comment and then he disappears back off into the sunset again. I know Cousin Gary is laughing right now over the mustache comment. Yeah, Gary's like 61 years old and he's had his mustache for 52 years. Oh, by the way, Super Quest, I emailed you or I DM'd you Steve's email on your Twitter account. I did have it up, so I did grab it and email it to you or DM you on Twitter. So that way you got it. Which gnome? Which gnome? This one? Look, I'm fap. I can't fit in the camera. I'm fap. Huh? See the size of my head? We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce one of our power guests tonight, Steve Stockton. 13 past midnight is one of his YouTube channels. This is the one I go to bed to each and every night. That and Swamp Dweller, which will be our guest tomorrow night. And I got to tell you, there's some creepy stories there. There really
That's
is.
That's going to be a good show. Swamp has got some awesome stuff.
And he's one of the top researchers. And this guy, on his other YouTube channel, just passed 100,000 subscribers. And he's going to get the plaque, and he's going to take a picture of holding it up high. Dude, I'm so proud of you for that.
I can't believe it. And just that many people. I mean, where I went to college at the University of Tennessee, that's what our football stadium holds. You know, I can imagine me standing out there on the 50-yard line talking to all these people. It's kind of scary in a way. And then I was looking at the analytics on YouTube. On the last 28 days, we got 1.25 million views. So, you know, over 1 million people heard my voice in the last month. That's scary. You know, that's like people in my head or something. You know, but I'm happy. I found my niche. I'm doing what I was born to do. So,
well, you know what? You deserve it. You really do. You're a hard worker. And you really do deserve all the best. And I want to say thank you and Ann from KPNL that letting us be a part of the family there down in Oregon. And you know, we have talked behind the scenes that as soon as this COVID crap is over, that KPNL digital radio is going to be doing a weird night where Steve and I are going to go out there. We're going to have a talk. I'm going to drive down to Portland. or fly down to Portland, and we're going to have a night of adventuresome stories that we're going to share with the public. We're all waiting for COVID to be over, so that way we could get a date set in Portland for everybody to come hang out with us and share some stories and fun and information and photographs and some drinks. So I just can't wait for that to happen, man.
Oh, I'm telling you, I've already got it planned out. Picked a tiny little theater that I want a 4-wall, and we'll have a stage. We can sit up on the stage and talk to people. There'll be a cash bar, and going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, just waiting for the okay. Unfortunately, though, it looks like we're about to go back down into lockdown again. So
I hope not.
I don't want to hear that, but I'm looking forward to it. And then I also heard you talk about doing something in Vegas at some point. I'd like to be in on that. I lived in Vegas for about 10 years and had just the most amazing time ever. Met a lot of celebrities out there, got into a lot of things. It's one of those places, I mean, it's 24/7 wide open all the time, and it wears on you after a while. Plus the crowds and the heat and just I don't know, but it's awesome out there. Hey, Dave Altman, good to see you. Dave's a good buddy of mine. He's a talent scout.
Little Davey Altman, we call him around here.
Sagged after talent scout there. He's a nice guy to have in your corner.
Dave actually gave me crap the other day because I every time he comes into the room, I call him Little Davey Altman. And apparently in some other chat rooms on YouTube, there's people going up to him now on a daily basis saying, "Hey, Little Davey Altman." And he's like, "Shut up. Shut up." Yeah.
Dave's a good guy.
He's a very good guy. Very good guy. Patrick Phillips, new to our chat. Thank you, Patrick, for joining us, is asking, Steve, have you heard of all the creepy tales down here where he is in the Bankhead National Forest, Alabama?
I've heard some stories from that part of Alabama. Cisco Murdoch, who has an excellent channel called Journey Through the Gate Paranormal Portal Podcast, mouthful. She and I wrote a book together. It's called, again, one of her long titles, We're All Children in the Wilderness of the Afterlife, a guided tour through a haunted life. It's her book, her stories. She did the heavy lifting. I went along behind her and wrote anecdotal stuff at the end of each chapter. But she's got some amazing Alabama stories. She grew up between New Jersey and Alabama, spent time different places because of her situation with her parents and her guardians and things there. But she's got some wild, wild stories from Alabama. And she's got a series that's on 13 Past Midnight. It's on her channel too, called Cabin 22. And it's a fictional story, but she's taken all these things that actually happen. There's Bigfoot in there. There's dogmen in there. There's ghost children. There's exorcists and occultists and everything. And I can't remember the name of the place in Alabama, but it's near that area. And yeah, she said there's just all kinds of strange things that go on. And I don't doubt it. I've seen some strange stuff in Alabama around Scottsboro and that area, a little place called Skyline. That's Bigfoot country back out in there.
Man, I got to tell you, I would love to do some traveling to find some of these places. You know, you bring up the stairwells earlier on, and that one always creeps me out. What creeps you out, Steve? What's the one that just gives you the shivers?
Partial apparitions. I'd rather see a full-bodied apparition or even a head, a flying head or something. The ones that get me, there was a famous murder in East Tennessee in Gatlinburg. It's known as the Rocky Top murders. The Rocky Top Inn was the name of the place they happened. And afterwards, they see a pair of female legs come out of one of the rooms and go around. There was a water feature there, like a water fountain. And just from the knees down, they see this pair of legs run out. And that goes in with what happened. The people that had her in the room there that eventually killed her, she got away from them at one point, made a run across the parking lot, went around that fountain. They came around the other side, grabbed her and took her back in the room, and then later murdered her. And then also Mammoth Cave in Kentucky. There's a lot of hauntings and weird stuff there. It's where Floyd Collins was trapped in there and died, like, I think it was back in the 30s or so, kind of captivated the nation. That was all over the radio and in the newspapers and things, that he was caught in that cave and couldn't get out and eventually died in there. And there's like an intercom system that runs from like where the entryway and the little gift shop and things are up to the mouth of the cave. And they say there's times that intercom will go off when the cave's closed, like somebody in the cave is calling them. And when they pick it up, they'll hear like distant voices and things on it. But there, they've seen a guy in overalls from the waist down running down the hill. Overalls and like work boots, but just the legs and the feet. So to me, something just partial like that, it's much more frightening than if I saw a whole ghost. The first ghost I ever saw was an apparition of a little boy about 2 years old. Didn't scare me at all. It's just like, huh, what's that? You know, that's not supposed to happen. Little kids don't run across the street into my yard and fall down and disappear. It piqued my interest. But if it'd been a pair of toddler legs, I wouldn't have anything to do with paranormal.
No, not at all. One of the freakiest things that happened with my son, and my son's 8 now, but my buddy Mark, who's tuned in, when we did our paranormal museum tours around here to raise money for the museum, we would go to the buildings before the tour, a few hours before the tour, to remind the ghosts of the buildings that we were doing a tour that night, and we'd appreciate if they participate. So we go into this one little room, and we call it, oh gosh, I forget what we called the room. Long story short, it's like a cabin. And my son walks in there, and this was, we were just getting ready to open up this building to the tour. We'd never used it before. And we go in, and my son starts looking, and we got the feeling, you get the feeling you're being watched.
Mhm.
And so my son says, I see someone, or something along those lines. And I say, well, do you see a man? He goes, no. Do you see a woman? He goes, no. He was 4 at the time. I said, well, what do you see? He goes, I see a little boy. I said, well, where is he? And he points from Mark and I, he goes, he's under the kitchen table. And Mark and I look, there's nothing there, but clear as day, my son sees him, and my son's, hi, and all this. So we're like, okay, this is all sorts of awesome, right? Mm-hmm. We go back a week later, and my son's like, Daddy, can I come with? And I'm like, yeah. So we go with, and we open up the building again, and my son's looking around, and he's got how kids are. They want to play. They want to play with other kids. And my son has this big frown on his face. And I said, what's the matter, bud? He goes, well, I wanted to play with the little boy this time, and now he's not here. And I'm like, oh, gosh. Oh, man, that's okay.
Reminds me of a story I heard about parents had gone to this place with their little girl, and it was like a restaurant in an old lodge. And the little girl started laughing during dinner, and they're like, what are you laughing at? And she said, that lady on the stairs. And they're like, what lady? And she said, the lady with her braid around her neck making faces and dancing. And what had happened in this place, a lady had hung herself from the rafter in the stairwell. So what the little girl was seeing thought it was a hair braid around her neck. It was a rope. And the lady was choking her, hanging and making the faces and jerking about. And the little girl thought it was funny. And I've heard of other stuff like that. There used to be a carousel out here on, I can't remember the name of the little island. It's out in the middle of the river between Portland and Vancouver. Jensen Island, I think. And there was a couple of kids that were killed on it at one time. And I heard a story of a woman that took her son there, and he was riding it, and then he kept looking like down in the middle where the motor and stuff was. And he's like, Mommy, there's kids under there. And she's like, no, there's not. And he's like, no, there are. And they're telling me they want me to come under there and play with them. And that to me, that's just really creepy. They ended up dismantling that. It's in a warehouse somewhere. But there had been kids killed on there, and this kid had no way of knowing that. And he's looking down in the gears and stuff, like, Mommy, there's kids down there. They want me to come and play with them.
No. You're not going to play at all.
Hard pass for me, too.
Yeah, that's where you grab the kid by the wrist, not the hand, the wrist. And you're like, we're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere on that one.
Kids are open to things like that. They haven't been taught that it doesn't exist or that you can't see things like that. There were kids that I played with when I was small that came out of the woods, and they were real. They wore like they had blue jeans and flannel shirts and stuff. They didn't talk, which I always thought was weird. And I thought, well, maybe they didn't have anything to say. I was like 5, 6, 7 years old, and then they would leave same way back through the woods over the hill, gone. And as an adult, I asked my dad, said, when we lived down there at the Springs, there's a couple little kids that used to come out of the woods, and I played with them. And any idea who those kids were? Because I didn't go to school with them or anything. And my dad said, you mean your imaginary friends? And I'm like, no, these aren't imaginary. I could see them. And he's like, no, we used to see you playing down there all the time, but you were by yourself. But I saw and played with these two little kids. And when I told him the direction they'd come from, the direction they'd go, there was nothing over there. At one time, that had led to the river. Tennessee Valley Authority had dammed up the river and made Melton Hill Lake out of the Clinch River in that area. And my dad said, no, the only thing there is over there used to be a cemetery, but it's under the lake now. And I just like, what? So I believe those were like farm kids or something from the 30s. But it never occurred to me that they weren't real, because I could see them and I could interact with them, but they didn't talk. And that's just one of the strange things that I encountered as a child. And where that area was, we had 7 natural springs that flowed out of hillsides into a bigger creek, which went down into the lake. We call that the bottoms. We always had a garden and stuff down there. We lived on 26 acres, and only about 5 of it was cleared off. The rest of it was heavily wooded. But my dad had built a little bridge across the creek there. And there's times that I'd be down in there playing. If it started to get dark, I'd get spooked, and I would run until I got across that bridge, and then I was fine. And the same with these 2 little boys that I played with. I'd say one was maybe 6 or 7, about my age. The other was maybe a year or 2 older. They would never cross the bridge. They never came over into that part of the yard. Well, looking back on that, that's part of ghost lore. Supposedly a ghost can't cross running water. So that would be why they never crossed the bridge, and why I had a feeling like I needed to get across the bridge in a hurry sometimes when it started to get dark.
Oh, that's just all kind of creepy woo right there, man. That is all kind of creepy woo as we move on. What's the scariest you've been in any encounter that you've had?
The absolute, well, I told you about the Wendigo thing that we saw.
Yeah.
There was another thing in that place where I told you where I was growing up. There was a ditch there that had actually been the old stagecoach road through there, going back to like colonial times. Something came out of that ditch and chased me once that I couldn't see. I could see the effect that it was having on other things. I could see the leaves kicking up. I could see branches being knocked about. I could literally feel its footfalls. It was that heavy. And but there was nothing there. I couldn't see it. And I ran down the hill screaming. I was about a quarter mile away from the house. My mom actually came out on the back porch to see what all the commotion was. I passed her up and went inside and hid under the furniture. And my dad and my brother got home from work, and they went up there and looked. I wouldn't go back with them. I'd go part of the way, but I wouldn't go back up there. And they looked down in the ditch. They looked around the ditch. They could see where the leaves and the trees and stuff had been disturbed. And they're like, well, was it a bear? Was it a deer? Was it this, that? No, I could see all those things. I couldn't see whatever this was. I was like 7, I think, maybe 8. Well, flash forward a few years later, I'm 15. We're getting ready to move away from there. And I was just kind of wandering around. Like I said, we had, 20-something acres. So I had a lot of places that I like to go in the woods just for solitude and, build a tree fort or whatever. And I just kind of walked back up there, and I was kind of laughing, chuckling, like, I wonder what that was that scared me, when I was a kid all those years ago. I looked down into the ditch to that old roadway. So I turned to walk away. I heard familiar noise, something running in the leaves. I turned around, same thing. 7, almost 8 years later, whatever it was came up out of the ditch, was headed straight toward me. I didn't run screaming and crying that time, but I didn't waste any time getting out of there. Ran back down the hill. It only went so far, didn't follow me. And then fast forward another 5 or 6 years, I was working in West Knoxville, and a guy that I worked with, only knew him from work, and I'd only worked there a short time, invited me to a party after work. And I'm not a big social butterfly or anything, but I went with him. And he was the only person I knew there. I didn't know any of the other people, and just barely knew him. I'd never told him that story. And some of the girls that were there found a Ouija board under the host's couch, and they got it out and started playing with it. So they're going around the room and they're asking people different things. So when they got to me, I thought, I've got a good one for you. And this is all I said. What scared me as a child? So they're doing their thing with the Ouija board. It spells out WATERSPRITE, water sprite. And they're looking at me, and I don't know. And they're like, what does it mean? Water sprite? Does it want a drink? Ha ha ha. But I just shrugged. But then the next day I went to the library and I went up to the reference desk and asked the reference librarian, I said, what can you tell me about a water sprite? And sure enough, in a few minutes, she had some books, and it was like the Fae, elementals, stuff like that. There's two types of spirits in the forest that are guardians of the forest. There's a naiad and a dryad, and I get them confused. I think the naiad is the water spirit, and the dryad is the tree spirit. But the one that protects the water is also known as a water sprite. And like I said, for this area where that happened, there were 7 natural springs that flowed out of a hillside in the woods. So either one of those would play, but I don't know why it chased me. I don't know why it didn't want me there. That was the second most scared I've ever been. Now, the absolute scariest I've ever been was in the late 90s when I encountered 2 black-eyed kids in West Knoxville. 2 little girls in a parking lot at 2 o'clock in the morning. They were sitting on the curb. I was working in information technology at the time, and I was wiring up a comprehensive medical center after hours. Finishing up, going out to my car about 2 o'clock in the morning, I was driving a little Mazda Miata at the time. So it's like playing Tetris, trying to get network cable and tools and things in the trunk. And I see these 2 little girls sitting on the curb. And I thought, well, that's weird because this is an industrial area. There's no houses or anything around there. And here's these 2 little girls. Well, every time I'd glance back over, they had stood up and they were getting a little closer. And I never saw them move, but they were obviously moving because they were closer every time I looked. And finally, they got up to where they were under a streetlight that was there in this parking lot in this medical center. And I could see their faces, their eyes. It's like they didn't have any eyes. It was just these huge black spots. One of them was taller than the other, I'm guessing. She was probably maybe 13, 14. The other one was probably 9 or 10. They both were dressed similarly, just very plain clothes, hoodies. The smaller one didn't speak, but the taller one didn't stop. It was almost like a litany. She was like, he'll give us a ride. He won't leave us out here. He'll take us with him. He'll let us in his car. And this just continued on and on and on. And they keep inching a little closer. And finally, by the time I got everything shoved in my trunk, I was scared at this point, got in my car. They were right up to the car door on the passenger side. Still, he'll let us go. He won't leave us out here. It's dark. It's scary. It's cold. On and on and on. Never stopped. And I actually got in. I fumbled with my keys. I floored the car and actually went down through the lawn of the place and jumped the curb just to get away from them. And Dave, it was the most irrational fear that I've ever had. The 2 little girls. I mean, yeah, it was weird circumstances, but it was like this total fight or flight thing, except there was no fight. It was pure flight. And it came off of them in waves, this fear, this anxiety. And the whole way home, and I was staying at a girlfriend's house. It was just a couple miles away because I could go there and be on time for my other gig in the morning. I was
10 seconds.
But I went to my parents' house, which was like 20-something miles away. Drove like 100 miles an hour down Pillsbury Parkway, and I kept looking over my shoulder like I was going to see him run along behind me, or I was going to look over in the seat and see him. Went to my parents' house, parked behind the house, and stayed up until daylight looking out the windows, and then called in sick to my other job.
I don't blame
idea.
you.
Scared the crap out of me. That's the most frightened I've ever been to something that wasn't even really that frightening, but that's what they gave off, just waves of it.
Steve, I want to bring you back in October for some creepy stories, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
And we will set that date, my friend. Thank you for coming on in. 13 past midnight, Steve Stockton. Get all his books on Amazon. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone tuning us in on YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, Twitch, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. I'm going to tell you right now, Steve, that was a fuck yeah kind of show. It really was. I'm not going to lie. Your mic, I think I muted your mic, or you muted your mic, one of the two.
Yeah, I had it muted. Sorry about that. Yeah, it was indeed. I'll let it all hang out, man. I pulled out all the old stories and stuff, but
yeah, you did.
I've got more besides that. That's just some of my favorites that I tried out. But yeah, I've had some adventures.
Well, I'm telling you right now, man. Let's well, I got you for like 30 seconds here. Let's go down to October. When in October do you want to come on in?
Just any time, but let me know, because that October usually fills up fast. Everybody wants me in October for their spooky stuff. So shoot me a message or an email or something. Just pick a day that you want me on. Any night except Halloween itself.
Yeah, not a problem. Halloween's
that's my
on
birthday, and then I usually do a live stream or something. Then last year I did 2 years ago I did 31 nights of Halloween, and did something every day or every night for 31 days, and then culminated with a live stream that lasted like 40 hours. But I'll do something cool this year too for Halloween.
For sure. Let's I'll pick a date here. I'll get it to you as soon as possible, and we'll get everything sorted out, man, because I definitely want to bring you on for some spooky stories, that's for sure.
Great. I'd love it. Thanks for having me on. Looked like we had a good crowd. I had a lot of my people here, so hopefully got some new subs.
We did. Thank you. And contrary to popular belief, we didn't have to buy those subs, Steve.
No, that's just, man. The more popular you get, the more success you achieve, the more haters you're going to have. But that just, when you get that hate, that means you're doing something right.
Very true, my friend. Very true. Hey, much love for you, my friend. You take care. And, thank you to all your people who subscribe to our show tonight. We really do appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Dave. Anytime.
All right, take care. We want all of our Spaced Out Radio listeners, after we're done here, to head on over to 13 Past Midnight YouTube channel. Go hit that subscribe button there, because, as you can tell, Steve is one of the good ones there. Out there, and a fantastic guy, and we're glad to be friends with him. He's also part of Anne Celine's team, KPNL Digital Radio, where there's always great broadcasts. We're on KPNL as well, because I love what they do.
You over there. You're our biggest show over there. You get the most listeners.
Thank you. Yeah, I've seen a lot of our listeners sub to you guys tonight. So thank you, Steve. I'll let you go, because I know you got a lot to do tonight. And,
my stream's already running over there. They're just waiting on me to show up. I've got a crawl running on the bottom and thing on the screen.
Well, you go
in motion.
You go, my friend.
All right. Going. Thanks again, Dave. Have a good night.
Take care. I just
ended the feed on KPNL too, so it's all good.
All right.
Thanks
take
again.
Care. Good night. Steve Stockton, everybody. How awesome is he? Thanks, Clam, for posting the link. Appreciate that. That was fun show. Really fun show. Steve's just a great guy. Just a great, great guy. And we need more Steve Stocktons in this field. Honestly, we do. Give me 2 seconds here. Better not have another moth in here. It sounds like I do. Well, maybe it's Doug Stevenson. He's passed out on the floor. He's had a hard day of doing nothing. Hard day of doing nothing, Doug. Hold on. What the hell is that? Paste. No, that's not what we want to do. What the hell is going on here? Copy. Paste. There we go. That was weird. Hey, thanks, Brad Forsey. Appreciate it. Arlene Freeberg, what's happening? Did we gain an admirer in you, Arlene Freeberg? We sure hope so. I'm Chad Smith, by the way. Who else is Chad Smith out there? If you're a Chad Smith, make sure you post it in the chat room. Thank you, Jose. Oh, the gorgeous Bat Bomb is Chad Smith. Adam is Chad Smith. Behoff owns Chad Smith. UFOologist is not Chad Smith. Chad Smith claims that he's Chad Smith, but there's still some questions about that. Aussie Steve is the legit Chad Smith. Andrew is pulling the North American Chad Smith. Man, there's a lot of Chad Smiths in here tonight. There it is, right there. Look at Super Quest. I am Chad Smith, the real Chad Smith. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah. That's my man right there. Super Quest coming in large. Uh-oh, race fan. I could be Chad Smith. Hell yeah, bro. That's awesome. That is fantastic. Oh, even Dogbird, who's new here, he's Chad Smith. Uh-oh, Clam even, we Chad the Night. Very nice. I think I'm going to go buy a boat just so I can name it Chad Smith. Thurston Howell III, how are you? Oh, look at Adam here, jumping right on the case. Being Chad Smith is a state of mind. Eva. Look at Bat Mom. Real Chad Smith, please stand up. Please stand up. That's awesome. Oh, there's the 20-minute mark. There it is. Davey says he's Chad Smith from the waist down. Oh my. Oh my. I'm gonna get Ben to create an I'm Chad Smith t-shirt for our store. Once our new website is up. Hell yeah, I am. Hell yeah, I am. Look, Clam, the Chadley Zephyr. Very nice. Ed Parnell jumping in with, you can't touch Chad Smith, man. Jules, Dave has Chads. Iron Dogger, I'm definitely a Chad Smith. See what you started, Super Quest? See what you started? I'm blaming you for this, man. Totally blaming you for this. Hey, from Italy, Detailing Academy. How you doing? Oh, Agent Chad Smith. Oh, Andrew's selling I'm Chad Smith gnomes. If you suffer from Chad syndrome for more than 4 hours, please consult your bartender. Wow. That's large there, Clab. Fap, if you put Chad Smith, I would totally do that, dude. I have a boat with no name on the back. You want to go in with me on Chad Smith on the back? You got to split the $10 a month rental I've been paying since I was 12. Oh God. Oh, Hexstar, welcome to the Chad Smithsonian. Oh, that's large. That is large. That is awesome. Chad Smith with those fries. Oh man. Oh, that's huge. That is huge. My sister thinks she's Chad Smith. Oh, oh, Chad, I'm glad you get our humor around here, man, because we're doing it all out of love. All out of love and no disrespect, man. And I know you get that. I totally know you get that. Oh. Oh my god. Hey, all, thank you for going over to Sonia's channel. Where's Sonia? Is Sonia still here, or did she fall asleep? Look at Nikki. So, we eating Chad Smith? Ooh, Nikki! Get a little frisky. She wants some Chad Smith buffet. Oh man, the fan's blowing right in my eyes. Oh, B. Hoff getting ugly here. Chad Smith says the earth is flat. The Chad Smith tar pits. You may be a Chad Smith if my cat just told me he is Chad Smith. Oh my god. That is awesome. Oh, I heard Gilligan's crew got lost on the SS Chad Smith. And here's the voice of reason, Eugene. You can kind of be yourself here, Chad. Oh, wow. You guys are amazing. Absolutely amazing. Oh, look at Marky Spender. Merle told me his real name is Chad Smith. Oh, wow. Going large there, little Marky Spender. Holy cow. Just hammering it home. Merle is Chad Smith. Oh, Chad, thank you for the super chat, brother. I love you, man. Thank you for having a good sense of humor. A lot of times we don't get to laugh anymore. You know that, and everybody else knows that, but this is all good. Oh, Mark, you're so right. You're so right. But could Chad miss 13 times? Wow. That's a huge shot against Merle, man. Huge shot against Merle. So, Mark there, my buddy Timber Hunter, we go hunting with Merle. And Merle wants to hunt some grouse. So, I'm the driver, I'm the spotter. Merle's in the front seat with me. And Mark, excuse me, Mark is in the back seat. So, long story short, we find a grouse standing on a side logging road. And Mike gets out of the truck, or Merle gets out of the truck, goes to shoot it. He misses. Loads up again, lock and load, fires, misses a second time. Third time, misses. And if you know grouse are pretty stupid animals. Okay. They're beautiful, but the thing stands there looking at Merle, kind of like, honestly, Merle, are you going to hit me or not? Right? And so Merle moves closer, fires like 4 more shots and misses. Moves closer. The bird still hasn't moved. Fires like, let's see, we're at 7 shots, fires like 3 more shots, misses. The bird still hasn't moved. He's only about 25 feet away from this bird now. He walks back to the truck. I'm dying laughing. Mark's dying laughing. And he ends up switching guns with Mark, basically rips Mark's gun out of his hand. And Mark is sitting there killing himself laughing. Merle walks even closer to the bird, fires the first 2 shots, misses. Finally hits him on the 13th shot. So now you guys are going to know that when we get the new store going, we actually have a Merle t-shirt. And that Merle t-shirt will have 13 bullet holes in it. 13. Merle. Dillhole, welcome from Mississippi. How you doing? Joseph, what's happening? All right, I'm going for a pee break. There's 228 of you in here. I'll be right back. All right. So I had something really cool happen today. I today was my day off from my daytime job, and it's about I don't know, about 10 o'clock in the morning, 10:30 in the morning, and or 10 o'clock in the morning. I got to do my interview with Bigfoot Michigan Rob on Brunch with Bigfoot, which was amazing. A lot of fun with him. You guys got to subscribe to that channel too. And got done that at noon, and then I got a call from work that I had to go in, and I thought I had my guitar lesson at 1 o'clock, and but I got a call from work, and I work in financing, and my boss says to me, he's like, I need you to come in. We got some clients here that only want to deal with you. And sorry, I know it's your day off. And I'm like, dude, I haven't even brushed my teeth yet, boss. He's like, well, hurry up, get ready. I said, okay, I'll be there in like 20 minutes. So I'm kind of pissed off because I'm really, really tired. And and quickly brush my teeth. I brush my hair and get some deodorant on, throw some clothes on, pull into work. And it's just like everything normal, like I love my job. I really do. And I work for the greatest dude in the world. And so I said to my boss as I come in, and I'm like, hey, where's the clients that I need to deal with here? And he's like, oh, they're in your office. So I'm looking at him like, my office light is off. Didn't even clue in. Walk towards my office. My door is open a little bit. And I see someone sitting at my chair. I'm like, the hell is this client sitting at my chair for? Right. And I walk in, and it's my sister and her fiance. And my sister has never been up here. And they were doing some camping for the last week. And instead of taking the regular route home, they decided to cut through town here and spend the night out here tonight. So I got to spend all day with my sister. My boss is like killing me. I'm like, client. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, I was just so happy. So we went for lunch, took him into the forest to try and find some wild horses. Couldn't find any. And just spent the day, had a great dinner. Then they went back to their campsite, and they're leaving tomorrow morning. So I'll see them before they pull out of town tomorrow. They'll stop at my daytime job. And no, it was a special, special moment, man. Caught me right off guard. So I've had a damn good day today, especially after, I felt bad for Bigfoot Rob and his team. And Mr. Lee 3PO did a great job as moderator in the YouTube chat. It was Deneen, Gary. Cousin Gary coming in for a second comment tonight. Coming in for a second comment. Cousin Gary and his 52-year-old mustache. Look at that. You know what Cousin Gary's mustache name is? Chad Smith. Hi, Shar. How are you? Yep. Chad Smith. That's the name of Gary's mustache. Yeah, so I totally got geeked out over that a little bit. Yeah, we definitely need an autographed picture of Chad Smith for the studio. That's for sure. We'll put it like right here. Right there is where we'll put it. Oh my, look at Clam. Hey bud, how you chatting today? Oh, a little to the left. NTR Blues, you missed a pretty good show. You're going to have to catch the archive. Well, there's a moth in here. I'd probably rescue that one and throw it out if he settles down. No, he's going to go into spaz mode. I can feel it. He's about to go into spaz mode. Not seeing any daddy long legs around here tonight. Probably all hidden somewhere. I'm sure there's a few in here. Alien believers, what's happening? Oh, Chad, I will. Trust me. I'm going to do that right now. Where is Chad Smith? Where are you here? There you go, Chad Smith. You got my autograph, or you got my address now to my P.O. box. There it is. It's on record. It's on record. He totally has my address now. I just want an autographed picture of Chad Smith, man. I'm gonna put it right here. That's where I'm putting it, right up here beside the guitar. Oh, you know what? I love little anecdotes like that nobody gets. Dillhole, what's happening? Zune, what's happening? All right, let's that downloaded really quick. Close that out. Close that out. Close Encounters of the Chad Kind. Who's the Confessionals? Zune? Who? I don't get it. That's a nice website. I never heard of this. They got a gorgeous website. Very cool. Am I going to be on there? Good night, Jordan Ashley Pettit. Looking beautiful tonight. I'm going to be on with Quest. I was on Bigfoot, Michigan's Rob's brunch with Bigfoot earlier today. Chief Howling Wolf Hannibal, welcome to our channel. Oh, look at that. Brand new to our channel. Drops a pretty creative wordsmiths in the chat. Very nice. Very nice. See you tomorrow, Ozzy Steve. Adam would buy a Chad Smith calendar. So would I. It might have been a bug. Was it an orb or the moth that's on my ceiling right now? That's a moth right there that you see fluttering right here. That's a moth in my light up here. Told you he was about to go spad stick. That one's done. That one's done. That one's almost done. Lazarus Project tweeted me out his breakfast for dinner tonight. This is so much fun. So much fun. All right. I'm going to drop a link in here, guys. I say what we do is we all go crash. We all go crash 13 past midnight. I'm going to go give you guys a link here. And I'm going to shut this down for the night. And that's Steve Stockton's channel. They're live right now. There we go. Everybody go over to that link. We're going to close it off here tonight. Great entertainment by Steve Stockton over on his channel right now. And we'll go from there. All right. I'll take you guys away. Thank you so much for joining us. Much love to all of you. And we'll see you all tomorrow night on the show. Swamp Dweller, he's coming in. Doesn't do a lot of interviews. But goddamn, I'm excited about tomorrow night. We'll see you there. We'll see you over in 13 past midnight's chat room here momentarily, guys. I'll see you over there.